Good morning, everybody. We are on the final day of our budget. I will call the meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. We will do a brief overview of what happened yesterday, and then we'll pick it up from there. So I'll hand it over to Ms. Elvira Thompson this morning. Good morning,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Good morning. I hope everyone's ready for the big finale. I was, yeah. As a mom, you don't really have much options, yeah. So at the top of the overview, you see our overall surplus, which is 1.9 million, just shy of 2 million. And then our principal debt repayments that we have to do first before reserve transfers, and which leaves us $663,000. And of course, we then have to consider some of the other projects, the special projects and the capital that have an operating impact this year. And of course, we have the wildfire as well. That was outside of the budget this year in 2023. And then our reserve requirements of 821,000, which leaves us needing to make up 1.5 million. And so I had talked about different ways of dealing with the wildfire. So far, I haven't found any grants that cover this portion, only because 90% is already covered of the whole expense. Doesn't mean we're not going to keep looking. So if the whole amount is too much for council to commit to in 1 year, then something I had in mind is possibly using, like, we don't want to go down on reserves, but this is an exception, an extraordinary event, paying for it through reserves and then paying it back over 2 or 3 years to make that amount a little bit more manageable. Of course, this is a need. This is an emergency event. So if another emergency were to happen, there's only so long that we don't have a ton of reserves there. But for a 1 year, it's possible that we could look at that option.
No, Vera, just a question on that is, who do we owe the money to?
To the county?
They're the holders, yeah?
Well, they paid all the bills, right? So they paid all the bills and then took care of that side of things with the government. So we have the running spreadsheet and everything. We have access to all that information,
Right.
But they made all the payments. The only bills that we paid, of course, was our staff. We paid those out of our bank account.
Right.
So we do have a fair chunk of it that we've already expensed, I guess you could say, that we already spent from our bank account, because wages is such a big part of it.
Yeah, and that had to be done, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And so that's just an overview. If I'll just give council a quick view of what it would look like if we were to split this at the 500,000 into 3 years. So
Like split it and pay for it out of reserves, or just split it?
pay for it out of reserves and then pay it back over 3 years. So we do the 166 this year and then 166 in the next 2 years as well. Just to pay it back. It's not my recommended approach, of course, because we don't want to see reserves. We don't want to receive reserves go even further down where they're at, because they're fairly low as it is. But it is an option, and it is, because it was an extraordinary event, we couldn't have possibly planned for it. And seeing as we have other pressures like inflationary increases, cost of living increases, it's just a tough year. So that's an option as well. And so I also wanted to bring up the project list from 2023 and just look at all the ones that, if there's any that perhaps we haven't started, and if council would like to reconsider any 2023 projects. Of course, it has to be a decision that is made altogether, because these are projects that you guys passed last year. I did have one mistake on here for facility branding. This is not yet. So really there's 2 here that could be an option. So out of all the projects, almost all of them have been completed or are in progress. The only one that has not started at all is this downtown revitalization that got approved. And as an organization, we don't feel that we're really there to make progress on this project at this time anyway. It requires business engagement in that area, and we just don't feel at this time that we're there. So that's an option that council could rescope this project.
And
And
that's
so we could use
25,000, right?
Yeah, and then the other one, the other one really that, the fire parking lot upgrades we haven't started, but that's partially grant funded and it will be done in 2024. It was the busyness because of the fire made it so that we couldn't do it this year. So I don't recommend changing that. But the other one would be weed spraying. We spent some money for training, but this is not noxious weeds. This is specifically dandelions, and we have a noxious weed spraying in our core operating. And so if council wanted to, then you would have the ability to rescope this project as well.
So with the weed spraying though, I think from the current budget project list, we took the weed spraying out. I think because we felt that this 2023 allocation was sufficient, if I'm not right.
Yeah, that's correct.
So then I don't know how council would feel about that. I think we were counting on the
Yeah, and
2023,
and that's totally,
is that what everyone kind of was thinking yesterday? When we declined the weed spraying for 6,500, it's because we were confident in the 2023 allocation of 27,000 to cover this. We didn't think we needed to top it up. I guess
Yep,
my concern
no,
is that, yeah.
absolutely. It would have to be a council decision to change that priority. So
Yeah,
it definitely, we can totally keep it in. That's just the only other one
yeah. the
that really
27.
is an option from here.
What about 50-year transportation management plan? Just throwing it out there. $100,000. Did we start on that?
You didn't approve that.
Oh, we didn't approve it.
Nope.
Okay, I'm just looking at the list in total. Okay.
Yeah, this is the final list right here. Oh,
Okay.
that's really, really small. This is the final list that got approved last
I know,
year.
I just can't see it from here.
Yeah, I can zoom in. We just have to scroll. So we had,
What was the weed spraying number there? I thought I could see it too, but I don't think. it was
27,000.
it was 27, but I believe
Yeah.
around 6,000 has been spent on training already. So the remaining amount is about 20,000 left. Correct, Shelley?
Just if I,
Yeah, go ahead, Wally.
thank you. So this weed spraying that we're talking about that didn't start last year and the 6,500 that I think was not approved for this year, that's over and above the noxious weed spraying. So there's no concern there. I think this was nuisance weeds
Yeah.
like dandelions. So it's not a legislative requirement for us to take care of that.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think it was last year that was it the year before that we were receiving several complaints from residents because of the abundance of dandelions. So that would be my only concern. I don't know if you can cut it back and spray only certain areas, or is that something, or we need the full 27 with the training or?
No,
May-
this,
may I-
yeah.
Yeah,
The
sure.
dandelions are prolific. Once they start, they're extremely hard to stop.
Okay,
They go in cycles, so, partial spraying is probably not going to be effective.
Mhm.
Would be, so I think you're either in or you're
Or you're
out on that. And, a lot of people don't like dandelions, but a lot of people say they do wonder, they do great things for the environment and the bumblebees, so.
yeah. Do you have anything, Shelley, to add?
Yeah, so when we budgeted, that was just for our green spaces, not along our boulevards.
Okay,
That we were trying to do a trial run, didn't want to take on too much than we could handle. As well as there's other ways that we could try to control the dandelions. We could do some aeration holes just to get the grass, to promote growth of the grass and suffocate some of those out. There's some things that we can do to try to help with it, but also it was a dry year last year. It is looking kind of trending to be that way next year as well. And we didn't have as many last year as we did years before.
Mhm. But we sprayed last year, right?
No, we didn't get any spraying done last year.
We didn't get any spraying.
No, because we lost our chance because of the wildfire. So May is the chance you want to spray for the dandelions. and then the wildfire happened, and then we had a lot of catch up to do after, so we never actually got to the spraying last year at all.
Okay. Since we're talking about this, anyone online, Bill, Monica, or Rick, do you want to weigh in on this? Elvira's presented us with two possible items on the 2023 list that we could consider to remove or we keep. One is being the weed spraying and one is the downtown revitalization phase 1.
Good morning. I think
Morning, Bill.
good morning. In my opinion, I would like to see the weed spraying staying in and the downtown out.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I would agree with you, Bill. Rick, you have your hand up?
Yeah, personally, I'd remove them both.
Monica?
I would like to keep the weed spraying, but keep the 25, like move the 25,000 over.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
I think I'm in favor of a try. We didn't spray at all last year, and it's interesting to see there's as you're right, Shelley, there's just a time when it has to be done, otherwise you've lost it anyway, right? So we can stay ahead of that. I think we should give it a shot. And downtown revitalization, I'm fine with setting that aside.
Perfect. Colin?
Yeah, I'm fine cutting both. I think with the downtown revitalization, we do have probably a pretty good new tenant going downtown there. So I think let's wait and see what they do, and then we can maybe leverage that, what they do. So yeah, cut them both, please.
Okay, so I think the consensus is weed spraying in and downtown revitalization out. So that'll give us an extra 25,000 towards the 2024 projects there. Okay, that was it for that list. Anything else, Elvira?
So I will share this screen again, just to let you guys know where we're at, and then we can just go and go back through and look at the projects and see where council wants to, where they feel comfortable.
Okay. So if we were to just to walk away today and say, this is it, we're approving, where are we?
We're needing to raise $1.1 million, which is just, sorry, I
One-
can say this.
1.1 million?
1.1 million, which leaves us just shy of 10%. With cutting the wildfire into 3 years.
Okay, so that would be
Yeah,
cutting the wildfire into 3 and taking that from reserves
correct.
and as well as still contributing to our reserves,
Yeah,
right? The 800 and some thousand.
correct.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this, Colin?
Yeah, I wanted to chat about utilities. You know, we have the Corvus report and the recommendation is 1 cent a year per cube for what is it, 5 years. So I see Spruce raised theirs 30 cents a cube this year. Now, I don't know the context with which that's coming with, but I think it deserves a little more conversation, that 1 cent. I mean, should we be going, hey, let's, you know, we're in need now. Do we kind of forego those 5 years, maybe do 5 cents this year and then just keep it, you know, that for the next 5 kind of thing and not do any raises after this year? And how much
The-
impact does that have? I guess?
The thing with utilities is that in order to manage the necessities of life and the price of such, we're regulated as to what we can charge. And since the Corvus report was done and since prior Corvus reports were done, if the amount of revenue that we were bringing in and if the recommended reserve transfers that revenue was bringing in would have been done all along, then we would not be needing to have that conversation today, which is why. So the idea being that we've known about the infrastructure that we own and we've known that we have to maintain it. Every time we do the Corvus report, we study all the long-term. And so they set that based on the expected replacement cost, the expected maintenance. And so we're limited as, we can do it again, and it would change the numbers now because we're years behind. And so it's not that we can't, it's just that we have to have exact numbers essentially that we're basing it on. And so I think we are up, we could do even though we did a 5-year, we could do a new report and get new numbers, which might be in line with the project that we're going to do to help council see the way we could wean off using our utilities for other things. I have to go back and see what I just would want to get some advice first before raising by an amount, because it would require us to have backup as to exactly what we're using that for in terms of replacing and maintaining. So, and I would suggest if we do that, that we then commit to putting that into reserve. Doing that and then using it to manage taxes is going to, it's not going to help us. Because then we're just going to have to wean more.
And not only that, but it's that, you know, to the resident, we're not increasing your taxes, but we're increasing your utilities. We're just hiding it in utility fees. And that's one of the things that we don't want to be doing, is just offsetting one to compensate for the other to make it look better. Because in reality, it's the same, right?
Well, it is and it isn't, because there are users outside the boundaries of the town that use the water infrastructure, right? Both sewer and water. So you'd be availing of not burdening the entire tax base of Drayton Valley. It's beyond the boundaries, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from too, is you're sort of availing of another opportunity there. But if it's possible, great. If not, it is what it is.
Tom?
And who do we have to justify the raise? Does that go back to the Utilities Commission? And when you're saying we need to be able to justify it because there's rules around how you raise it, so that's back in the utilities, right? The commissions.
Do you know, Shelley, who we report to? I think it's just Alberta. I think it's just it's an MGA requirement, and I think it's just regulated through Alberta, the Alberta government.
Or the regulator.
Well, yeah, it's regulated through the government, but you also, if you raise it and you don't have a legitimate reason to why you're raising it, your citizens can then try to sue you for that.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful on how you look at your Corvus or your utility rates. And that's why we have a third party come in and do a study so that we have backup documentation to support why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, so it's just not as easy as putting in another couple cents, yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, any other comment, question to where we're at right now?
Interesting though, to know, to know what a 2-cent increase in just in water, what that actually means though. I don't know how much we use there.
It's, I believe, be 46,000, probably around there.
And I asked that only because I think we did raise the garbage fee. to
Yeah, we
11
had the
and all
addition
that.
of the-
You know, torn apart in the media about trying to hide it in the garbage and hide it over there. And to your point.
Yeah, and then when the Corvus report first came in too, that was one of the comments from the residents, is trying to hide the tax. You're not increasing taxes, but, so, yeah.
And just to note that I did have multiple residents reach out for the report.
Yeah.
So they wanted that report to see why. And once it was supplied to them, I didn't hear anything else.
I
after
was
that.
still sending it last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Bill.
Thank you. What's stopping us from having a delivery charge?
What's stopping us from increasing a delivery charge?
We even have a delivery charge.
For water utilities?
Yes.
that would be an increase to like a administrative fee on our utilities bill? Is that what you're
If
speaking
you-
to?
A delivery charge, just like they do on our power. There's a charge for delivering the power to your home. Which covers, I guess, their replacement and administration and whatever. So if you put a $5 a month delivery charge.
Flat rate. So
then you do
So
that.
Bill, to answer your question, we do have a fixed rate per size of water meter, per size of line. That is how we encompass our delivery fees. So that's where the cost recovery comes in for the underground infrastructure and things like that. It is encompassed within your usage as well, but the bigger the meter, the more you pay for that meter.
recognize-
So
I know that. I know that. I'm looking at a way to increase revenues. That is a legitimate way to do it. I understand cost recovery and the rates and so on, but I'm looking outside this box, and is there a way that we can increase revenues? Just like the power companies do with the delivery charge.
it's definitely something I can talk to Corvus, who did our study with, and see if that's something that we could look into. At this time, I just don't have an answer for that one right now.
So just a question for you, Bill. When we had, I guess, I don't want to say the opportunity, but when the time came up to consider increasing, is it franchise fees through, and we declined because we didn't want to put that on the residents. How do you see this, I guess, different?
Not different. I'm looking at how we can sustain our town.
Go ahead, Wally.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Ballas. We do not have a delivery charge. For us to do a delivery charge, I think it would probably require an upgraded bylaw, which would take some time, and to include those fees. So, and the other thing that is a no-no in the accounting world, and I'm just trying to find something in the MGA to support this, is that if you do raise utility rates such as water and sewer, as the GM of Corporate Services indicated earlier, I don't know if you can use that to offset a tax pressure, an operating budget. So usually utility has to be self-sustaining or recovery. So I think what Alvira said earlier about if we raise those rates, then any extra revenue generated from that goes into a reserve to support and upgrade and maintain your system. So I'll look in the MGA to see if I can't find that supporting information, but that's how it's always been in my experience.
Wally,
ahead,
then
Colin.
any upgrades or so on, it could be dedicated and restricted to that.
Yeah, so council will remember that a project that I was going to take on in 2023 was to, and I've highlighted this for the last 3 years, is that we have not committed any money from utility revenue to reserve. So currently we are using all our utility revenues to lessen our reliance on taxes. When we set our rates, we set our rates with the assumption that a set amount will be going into reserves, and then that reserve will pay for essentially all major part of our upgrades and maintenance going forward outside of grants. So anything that's grants covered. So we do a long-term plan that says if we put 600,000 out of our wastewater revenue and 600,000 out of our water billing into a reserve every year, then for the existence of, well, until we get the new study, then we set our rates, but then we'll be able to do all the projects that we'll have to do in the next 10 years. And we've set our rates based on the study, but we've not set our reserves based on that because there's been all kinds of pressures and it's been difficult to do. And so what I was saying before is that if we increased it only to not put that money in reserves. Now we're just going further down that hole that we're going to have to fix our, going forward if that happens. So, yeah. I don't know if that explains it.
Colin?
One other question I have, just do we have stormwater fees? How come we don't? Because that's separate than a water treatment or sanitary system. Stormwater is completely different, right? So,
Correct, yeah.
so are we funding stormwater related items via our utilities?
Can I take a round? So stormwater and stormwater drainage is designed and construction at the time of a development. And so, you know, it's usually, there's some cost sharing, it depends on your development permits and whatnot, but for the most part, there's no stormwater fees. I don't see any in their fee schedule, nor have I heard of any. And, you know, how would you measure that? You'd have to put meters in different areas. So stormwater is surface runoff. Developers help build that infrastructure. And, you know, when you run it into storm ponds, it gets filtered through the ponds and released in the environment. So we don't have any stormwater fees.
The reason I ask is I see Spruce does.
Really?
They do have stormwater fees. So, I mean, I guess the way I'm viewing that though is, you know, it's infrastructure, you know, it depreciates over time in both quality and effectiveness and value, I guess, from a accounting perspective. But, you know, is that worth something looking, or is that worth looking at? Is creating a stormwater fee schedule?
We can certainly look into it. I don't know. That's a new one for me. I have not heard of that. Where'd Shelley go? No?
Just like Wally said, I'm not sure how they are measuring the amount of stormwater coming from a specific resident. That's hard to measure. I wonder if it's just based off a flat rate. We're gonna have to look into it and see kind of what they're doing and how they manage that.
Yeah, I think it is worth looking at. I mean, if it's a significant cost to us one way or another, right? And if we're funding it, I'm not going to say incorrectly, but maybe not in line with other municipalities, maybe we should look at doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make a note and research it.
Any other comment or questions? Tom?
Rick mentioned land, in a note, landfill rates. Have we talked about those or?
Yeah, we've increased them across the board by 2.5%. And I just want to comment again that we can increase utilities. We just have to make sure that we're justifying it by what we need. And there would definitely be justification for some increase, not because the costs have increased, but because we haven't been putting into reserves. So now our cash requirement is more as of the day that we're in right now.
So are you saying you're wanting to have a look at our fee schedule?
It just, Rick had just mentioned it.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
putting it on the table. But I would say we need to be, I think, careful about how we approach all of these things. We're always clear that the only way for communities like ours to raise revenue is through the taxes. And you can play around with utilities a little bit, but it's regulated. And so I just think we just sort of have to come to an agreement that what we need, as it's been put to me by Wally, is the fiduciary responsibility to run the community as opposed to a tax increase in a number. And I thought that was a novel way to put it. I hadn't quite heard it that way before, and it makes sense.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, so if there's no other comments or questions, then maybe what we'll do is we'll circle back to our draft operating project list. You did add the 25,000 from the 2023 project list, yes? Perfect. Okay, we'll see if we can maybe go over a couple of the projects that we were putting on as a parking in the parking lot. So the first up was the SOS Media. I think I had 3 no's, 1 yes, and 2 parkings or something like that.
3 no's, 3 yeses, and I was parking.
Yeah, so do you want to go ahead, start this one, Amila?
Yeah, no, I think, to be fair for both asks, I'm gonna say yes for this one as well, because we are approving the one from Brandy, so.
Okay, you're saying yes to this one. Colin, did you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I think in line with the Mila, we're approving one, we should approve the other.
Okay, I'm going to go no. Tom? Rick?
Can't hear you, Tom.
Tom said yes. He changed his mind.
Great. My question on, so I said, yes, I think it can be a useful tool. And I think we started it. Let's keep it going.
Monica?
I think we have a little bit left over from what they did last year, and $50,000 at this time, I think is a little bit too much for our town, so I'm gonna say no.
Rick?
I'm gonna say no.
Bill?
Absolute yes.
Okay, so it looks like it's still staying in, 50,000. Next, get a look at this list. Next, we had Youth Advisory, I think, was the one that was the parking lot. So Youth Advisory was another parking lot for 4,600. I think I did ask Hans if there was a number that maybe you felt, because I think Amila had threw out there, or maybe Monica, $1,600. Maybe it was Monica that threw it out there, $1,600 to bump this up, if you felt that would be enough. I'll just let Hans come, and then I think Colin has a comment. Pardon? I just wrote this, but I have no what they're for.
And thank you, Mayor, and to the rest of council. So the $1,600 would be sufficient to do the stipend with the increased number of members on this committee. It was a previous decision by council. It would not be enough to, let's say, support the work that they do. So if they make, let's say, pamphlets, information, have a session that they invite the public, make coffee or whatever. So those kind of costs would not be possible then for this committee to have. It would be only sufficient based on the bylaws and the regulations of the group to pay for the stipend for the current members in that committee.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Colin?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go no. I mean, we're carrying forth with the funding we had consistent with last year. So I don't know that we really need to add more.
I think they added additional committee members, though. Last year was, how many members did we have? We changed the bylaw. We started 6. We went from 6 to
And we
9.
had what, 5,000 in there?
Did we have 5,000 in the budget before, Hans? 3.
3,000? So we're more than doubling it and we've only added 3 people, I guess is my question.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think it should just be commensurate with, what's that, $800 a person, so 7,200 total. So what would that take us to?
You're asking me
Yeah.
right now?
Can you do them? It's not working.
7,200 from 3 is 4,200 increase then, rather than 46? Is that right? Okay. So were you still a no, or are you at 42?
If it includes everybody, yeah, 42, I think is what I would go with.
Oh, okay, if it includes everybody, so then we'd only bump it up. Are you saying 1,200?
Four.
Or are you saying 800 per person, so 8 times 9?
I don't even know anymore.
I'm sorry, I'm confusing you.
Really quickly, the 4,600 is covering how many people? And is that in addition to
them all.
last year?
Hans
I
is just going to
believe-
come.
I believe she was adding one person that was like an honorary member, and then the 9 that were already on the committee.
And
but let Hans
what's an
clarify.
honorary member?
Well, it wasn't really an honorary member, but
Jeez.
a member that was still coming regularly to meetings.
So that
If I
person,
remember, the person had experience with the committee and wanted to stay on, but was okay not to be paid and was going to act as a mentor to the group.
okay, go ahead, Hans.
Yeah, thank you. And that's correct, that last comment. So the 3,000 plus the 4,600, so 7,600 would be the complete payment to this committee, would be suffice for all the committee members that get the stipend for the meetings that they have, according to the bylaw, plus the cost for doing the work as a committee. So I have basically a small budget. So if you take that away as 2 separate items, the $3,000 would not be sufficient for the community members that we have right now, would be 1,600 included, enough to cover that. So a total of 4,600, then that would be suffice. They don't have then money to do their work, basically, if they have any additional cost. So 1,600 instead of 4,600 as a budget added item for this coming year would be suffice just to pay the committee members that we have on the committee right now.
Yeah, I'm fine with 1,600 then.
Okay, so you're saying 1,600? And you'll go, Amila?
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I'll support.
Okay, and then Amila will support that. Okay, Tom?
I'll support that as well.
Okay. Monica?
Yes, I'm in support.
Okay, Rick?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes, I'm supporting the $1,600.
Okay, thank you for that, and I as well. Okay, so we went from 4,600 to the 16 then, there. But we didn't move on the 50. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving down. Next is reconciliation and cultural diversity training for $6,000. Who would like to start this one? So just to get clarity, this would be external things like when we did the movie that was playing at the EPAC, the round dance, elders, gifting, any sort of things like that. Hans, correct? Okay, so I think for myself that it's important to continue down this road to reconciliation, and I know that it's part of our strategic plan and wanting to create a inclusive, welcoming community. So I'll keep this one in. Tom?
Yeah, I would agree. I think we're down the road and it's in my mind, it's a paltry sum, but it's there. And we can use it for, to continue that relationship that we've been building.
Thank you. Colin?
Yeah, I just, I guess I'm struggling a little bit with the training side of things, just, we did talk about it yesterday, but, yeah, 6,000's okay.
So training, again, remind me, what would we
Well-
be, yeah, what would this money be? It wouldn't be training internally, it'd be training externally, in what way and shape?
Thank you. So basically, this is a complete convoluted amount that we use for, that is internal training as well for our staff members. It is paying for those events and that activities that we organize as administration that the public also is invited to, so truth and reconciliation. So if you take the scope statement of the proposal down here, you see all those items listed. So there is a portion training inside. So we send, let's say, or invite elders or others to come to do training internally for our staff members, but also have them do the, let's say, the public sessions or the training sessions, you could say, with the public that they are invited to. And one of those items is, of course, National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. So it is multiple items in there.
Okay, thank you, Hans.
Yeah, no, I'll support it. Yep.
Okay, Manila?
Thank you. For me, I think action is more important than just training. So I think Newcomer Settlement Center is more important to the community than just token of training about inclusivity and reconciliation. So I would rather put that 6,000 towards making progress on the Newcomer our Welcome Center instead of spending that money on a training program. So no for me.
Thank you. Rick?
I'd keep it.
Bill?
Thank you. We have a budget there of $60,000 for organizational training. I'm not sure what the total difference is. And to me, I feel that $6,000 should come out of that organizational training. I know that they are saying that the mandate or the definition might be a little bit different, but in my opinion, it's not different. It's part of the training of the organization, and I think that's where it should come out of. So I'm a no on that.
Thank you, Bill. So I think for the organizational-wide training, that was internal for things like employee recognition, cross-training, and succession planning, in-house customer service, conflict management, sales, diversity. There is diversity and inclusion, performance, and things like that. I think, though, I agree with you, Bill, but I'm kind of thinking that a lot of this $6,000 is almost for events in a sense, right, Hans? Like it's for community involvement, engagement, and events, not so much training. And so I don't know if the word training is correct, right? So reconciliation and cultural diversity engagement, I guess. Maybe you could help me with this, Hans?
Thank you, Mayor. And on that answer, yes. So let's say the real work training, if you say it like that, is just a portion of it. When you take a look at that statement, things that we can really do with this dollar amount is, for instance, do more, let's say, visibility as well, putting plaques up, our statement, our land acknowledgement in different places. We have a shawl that we hang up here in the Civic Center, so that could have a plaque of installation. So it's not just training, as you said, it's those items there as well.
Okay. And then I guess for Bill's question too, if we were to say no to this, could we say we want to still see this go ahead, but we'd like to fall under organizational-wide training program, or do we just take $6,000 off of the organizational-wide training program then?
Correct. That's what I would recommend.
That's what you would recommend? What about that, Bill?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. Does anybody here want to revisit that before I continue on? Because I would kind of be with that now. I changed my yes to what Bill said.
Yeah, I'm okay with what Bill said.
Colin is?
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I think that's one of the things that I'd hope we would get to is to start to look at the pockets, right?
Yeah.
And I would include the pocket of council remuneration and all of that. Like I could put 50,000 of mine if I got 50,000 into something else. I think we have to look at ourselves as well. So, and we have a pocket. So I'd like to include all of that.
Okay, thank you. So you're a yes here? Okay, so Rick, we're now switched to Bill's suggestion where we'd go ahead with the 6,000 here and then we'd take 6,000 off of the organizational wide training program.
I'd support that.
Okay, Monica?
Yes, I'd support that.
Okay, did you get that, Elvira?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Next was. Sorry, Colin? No, I think that was contingent on grant. You want to revisit it again? No, we can revisit it if you want. Okay, so that was contingent on grant funding. If there is grant funding, then it'll be $7,000, just for clarity. So I think the next thing that we had in the parking lot was Agents of Discovery, I believe, for 4,200.
Can I ask a question about that housing?
The sustainable housing?
Yes.
Okay,
I was just wondering, so this is a research, like you just wanted to make sure I understand it clearly.
Yeah, this would be doing the housing study strategy, which would be what we would need to apply for funding for more affordable housing in our town.
We as Town of Graden Valley.
The town as a whole, not necessarily the organization, but to have more affordable housing here in our town. So it doesn't, depending on what pocket of money we get money from, it changes whether they give money only to a municipality or not, but that in general, in order to get money for affordable housing, then some sort of study typically needs to be with the application. So it's not its sole purpose, but that would be one of the things that it would be for. Hans, if there's more.
And I think
Yeah.
it's not 35,000, but up to 80% can be grant funded too, right?
yeah, so it would be grant funded, and so this number would change to 7,000, Monica.
Yes, I wasn't sure if Amila knew that.
No, I got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, we just have Hans here at the mic.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to the rest of council, and basically what Elvira was saying already. So when we talk about housing strategy, the biggest thing for housing strategy is that you have a comprehensive plan on the table that you can utilize for your grant, let's say, request for projects. Also determine what are the projects, what is it, what you need in town, plus the potential changes that you need for your policies, for your direction that you take. So this report, in the end, will bring everything together, what we have seen happening in the past already, surveys, all the conversations. It will bring everything together as one comprehensive final result that determines our housing strategy. With that, we will be more successful to go to the province or any other grant funding applications. And it will give us the direction of what we still have to change maybe in our internal policies to be more successful and knowing exactly what we are doing. The fact that this is RDN, it's that close, of course, to our provincial bodies that are in housing, let's say the leading and the most of the grant funding. This will give us the most potential success and round this completely off and know what we are going to do for the future and how to do it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, if I may ask a follow-up question. So I guess, if we are going ahead with this, either before or after, I guess we need to have a conversation in the council table of how we proceed when we receive this funding, right? If this is sole purpose is for not for Town of Graden Valley, but another party to go ahead, then I think that party need to pitch in as well for a research like this. But if not, then it is sole purpose for the Town of Graden Valley. Then I understand that we are, our taxpayers paying for this.
Elvira, did you have a comment?
Just that that council has spoken a lot about affordable housing and the need for housing. And this would also give council the opportunity to advocate more specifically, knowing what they need. And so it's about bringing, not necessarily about us owning it versus somebody else owning it, is about making sure that the town has the housing it needs to sustain the people that we already have and that are consistently coming in. In terms of cost sharing the grant, I mean, I guess, or sorry, the cost of this, I'm not going to say that it's not possible at all, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't know if we've pursued it, but right now this is in front of council as a council tool to make decisions for housing in our town and advocate for not only provincial funds, but maybe it can help us when we talk to contractors and bring development to town. So it's a more comprehensive tool to use when talking about housing.
Okay, maybe don't go anywhere quite yet because I'm going to move along to Agents of Discovery. Okay, we had this as, that's Hans, yes. I'll start this one. I'd love to see this one stay in. However, I know that we have to start moving. So Agents of Discovery, I know you shared this with me a while back, Hans. This would be up kind of in going through our parks and things like that. It's just another interactive tool, I guess, that our community would have, right?
Thank you for that. So yes, exactly. It's an interactive tool that we will do on the background as the, let's say, key holder of this system. And we're going to utilize it to, throughout the year, highlight, let's say, our locations. So we can utilize it as a consistent item. For instance, all our recreational locations, people can go on the app and basically do kind of a scavenger hunt, visit those locations and complete their mission. But we can also change it throughout the year for special events. So let's say when we have Canada Day, we could do a scavenger hunt on the location where we celebrate Canada Day and utilize it there as well. It's a tool that we will sit on as the administrators, as the town, and we can work together, of course, with organizations such as EBPR that say, hey, we do the pumpkin walk. Can we do a mission over there so that people have another interactive opportunity to do an event activity, like I said, it's kind of a scavenger hunt with questions and stuff like that at that location. But it's an administrative tool that we're going to utilize to promote our locations and get kids and people active.
Thank you for that. Do you see another group that would be able to take this on? Like if you were to say to EPBR, hey, I've got a great idea for you. Why don't you incorporate this Agents of Discovery into your program?
Thank you for that. Yes, we talked, of course, with them. We sat around the table with them. They were absolutely interested. They have other, of course, creative ideas in the sense of scavenger hunts or promoting their activities. So they said, absolutely want to be, let's say, part of it, but they haven't said we'll jump in with both feet at this moment, let's say financial wise, but they are absolutely interested.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, maybe I'll let someone else go first because I want to keep it for you, Hans, but it's tough.
All right. I think for me, it's an activity that I won't participate in. Much like disc golf, I just don't know about it, but it's happening. It's right before our very eyes. It's all going on. So I think in support of that, I think we should leave it in.
Thank you for that, Tom. I'll go to Monica.
Yes, I was a little bit on the fence with that one, but I think bringing community together and using this app during special events, I think it's a great idea. So I'm going to say yes.
Thank you. Bill?
Personally, I think it's a great sponsorship opportunity, and somebody that wanted to invest a few dollars would certainly get their dollars out of it.
Yeah, good
So
idea.
I'm a no.
Rick? Oh, you're a no?
I know on us doing it, yes. They should look at sponsorship.
Could we look at sponsorships? Get it going and then reach out for sponsors to support it?
Thank you for that suggestion. Of course, a sponsorship could be a portion of it that we can look into if we are starting this. Creatively thinking, like you could make it even into businesses and saying, hey, you want to be for half a year part of a mission, a scavenger hunt to go to all the, let's say, I have to say it correctly.
Grocery stores.
Grocery stores. Thank you for a suggestion of stores. That could be the possibility, of course, but at this moment, we have to get first the platform, of course, basically installed and
going, yeah.
part of us.
Okay, perfect. Rick?
For me this year, it's a no. I think it is a nice idea. But again, I think it's a want more so than a need. So I'm a no.
Okay, Colin?
Yeah, I like Bill's suggestion. I think if we could maybe get the downtown or something to all get together and maybe help sponsor 6 months or something, like you said, I think that would work. Otherwise, yeah, I think I'm a no for now.
Okay. Amila?
No, it's a great idea for sure. If you can incorporate technology somewhere to have fun, that's always a good thing. It's just, I think they are new. They're trying to explore their capabilities as well. And also we have a tough budget for us as well. So I think probably either sponsorship or push it to next year for me. So no for this year.
Okay, so I think that's a 4 no's, unless we can get someone else to support it or sponsors in the community. Thank you, Hans. Next up is RCMP. I believe yesterday when we left it, we were at 1 position.
I had put it in the parking lot, so I had removed it from.
you
the
did
tax
remove it.
consideration, But I had a
Okay.
note saying to come back to it. park
Okay,
it.
so you removed it, so in your totals, it's already gone. Okay, Colin?
Yeah, I'd say not this year. Can't do it.
Okay, anybody else? In the numbers that Elvira presented to us this morning, it was already gone. So do we want to leave it as 0 for now and then we can circle back if everyone's okay with that?
I'm in favor.
I'm good with that.
Same.
Okay, and everyone here? Okay, so we'll leave it as no. We did take out employee recognition, right?
We reduced it to 20,000 from 50 to 20, but we have not come back to it again.
Okay, I think yesterday's understanding, if we were going to do one of them, it would be the training. So I think, and that's kind of what council said. So I think we'll remove that. If there was anything different, please speak now. So we're taking out employee recognition, taking out the RCMP. Citizen budget, no. Weed spraying, no. We said no to weed spraying, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so next was flowers. I'm saying yes. We were 3 and 3 and 1, maybe? I think that's where it was yesterday.
I thought we fiddled with some numbers there. We didn't say flowers for 140. We talked about the wages and the time it takes to actually do it, right? So the flowers, just the way it reads is.
I think Shelley said that it's pretty hard to get down. You have to go in and you can't really say we're only going to do 2 flower beds and things like that. That was difficult to reduce that number, right? Like,
Well, I had the number of $30,000 and I think that was taken from previous.
the 30 was taken out of the budget, but that's what was, I guess, the previously allocated to take care of the flowers. But it's no
And
longer
that's
in the,
what
it's no longer in the budget.
Not in the budget or it is in the budget?
It's not.
Yeah, well, I'm saying we should include $30,000 in the budget.
Yeah. So we'll go around again because yesterday we were split. So flowers,
And what's the number? What number are we talking?
So I think what-
40?
Sorry. So in the last couple years, we spent 30,000. And so we took that out to put this in. And so I think what Bill was saying is remove this and put the 30 back. So
Leave
then that-
leave the
is that
30,
what you're,
correct?
yeah.
Yes.
keep everything the same. Monica?
I'm a yes.
Okay, Rick?
I'm in favor of reverting back to the 30,000.
Okay, and so it's Bill.
I meant yes to the 30,000,
Oh,
just to clarify.
okay. Tom?
And does that allow us any wages or I don't really quite understand what we're trying to do here. I think what we'd like to do is, so if we go back to exactly what we did this year, which was reasonable, but not above reasonable, I guess. And so if we went to 30,000, we're not doing anything, we're not hiring anybody, we're not doing any of that stuff, right?
We're just doing it with current staff that we already have.
Yeah, so I guess there's no extra flowers. The 30,000 doesn't get us anything, right?
Same as what we had.
Gets us the same as what we had?
I think essentially what we did was we doubled the flower budget to 60 or 65, and then the consultant, I think, was 70.
Contractor, yeah.
70 or whatever, 75. So we're cutting the consultant and having the flower budget is what we're doing.
And cutting half the flowers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in a tough budget, I would say if we remain where we're at for this year, I thought it was pretty reasonable. We could raise them up a little higher or do whatever we can do, but that's where I'm at.
Well, I'm a firm keep it. I know we talk about beautification, quality of life and all of that, community pride. So maybe not at 140, but definitely at a lot higher than what we have. Sorry, but that's where I'm at. Colin?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the 30, but I think that we should really get back on the sponsorship train again there, because I think, what was it, probably 4 years ago? It was, pretty successful. I think we had.
But that's when we had the contractor doing the flowers.
Did we? I don't know.
Yes. Shelley, do you want to come speak to that? So that was the thing, is we'd gone out and asked for the sponsorships and people are saying no because the quality just isn't there than what it used to be. So unfortunately, people aren't willing to sponsor.
Thank you for the question. Yes, that's correct. So we're having trouble getting sponsorship or buy-in now, just due to the quality that we can produce in-house. We can attempt to again and continue to attempt to. We kind of fell off the wagon a little bit after COVID as well, but when we did get sponsors last, it was when it was a contracted service.
Well, I think I could get behind it as well. If it is the contractor, then take my education budget. I'm willing to put it into upgrading the flowers.
So we have 3 no's, 2 yeses. Colin?
I'm in favor of the 30, I think.
Camilla?
Yeah, it's, yeah, I think I can get behind 30,000 as well. And also, I think we probably need to go back to trying to get some sponsorships, whether they are just for sponsorships wise, or maybe even some of the businesses may take care of the beds itself, right? That could be another option where, you sponsor this area and you take care of that area as well as a organization or a business. So that could maybe spruce up, the 30,000. So we have a base, and these organization will bring us to the next level that we are looking at as a town beautification and making our community, like you saying, Nancy, proud about our community. So thank you.
Okay, so we are there. Where are we at, Elvira?
So we reduced our requirement to 1,060,000, which is, I know council wants to know the percent, 8.9.
We're still there. So do we want to circle back around again? Yeah,
about COLA. This is based on 2.5, correct? Can we, what's like a 2%?
I will let you know right away. Or maybe Alicia will.
And then the other question I had was about SOS. I think I had sent everybody here. There's grants coming in the spring for rural tourism. So up to $100,000, right? So I mean, that could potentially cover SOS and Brazeau and beyond. So I think there's options there. Obviously, we can't bank on getting that right now, right? But I think we can realize some savings here, probably due to grants in the spring at least, on that front.
so with that, like Kundi will bring that applications that he applied for at our next council meeting. So we could do SOS and beyond, Brazeau and beyond contingent on those. If we're not successful in getting the grants, then we're not funding them. There was a couple
Is-
other ones though.
The one that you sent, Colin? So there must be opening a new round, because the one I'm looking at says that the project has to take place between September 2023 and March 2024, but there could be a new intake. But
The
yeah, definitely.
Deadlines were all, I
add
think,
that.
coming up November, December, and I think there was one, Kundi had said January too, right? I think that's what you told me, Kundi. Deadline in January or maybe two, yeah, for one of them.
But definitely add this to the list of grants that we can apply for, regardless if, even if council does approve it. We'll continue looking for grants for anything that we can to realize some savings.
Yeah, I'm just reading there, the application period for Rural Development and Promotion Fund is now closed. Applications for this fund will reopen in early 24, so.
Okay, so haven't decreased it much. How's everyone feeling about where we're at?
I sent the message circling back to the flowers. How about we just kind of throw it out to the community and do like a challenge competition for the, most beautiful flower bed. And then the winner gets a prize. That way maybe we'll get more people from or businesses involved in sponsoring the flower beds.
Shelley saying maybe, yeah. We try it. Wally?
Just a little clarification around that if I could. So you're suggesting we pick a town-owned flower bed and identify it as possible competition and let groups go in and do the work in there?
Yes.
Yeah, I do like it. I would say the only thing is when we're looking at those architectural controls, when we're looking at the CTC and we're wanting to have a theme, that we'd have to have some sort of conditions that either if we're going with colors or certain flowers, right?
But I think having different ideas and different themes would, get people's creativity going, and it might involve the community to, go and take pictures and, there'd be some kind of a survey or a score sheet or whatever for the most creative or unique or whatever. I don't know, just an idea.
We'd have to have some sort of control for noxious and
Oh, that, absolutely.
yeah. Okay. Maybe what we'll do is we'll call a 10-minute break and then we'll come back and talk about where we want to go next. We will reconvene and we are back. Is she back in? Monica, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. Did you have a comment, Wally, or a question?
I did. Thank you, Mayor Dodds. Just wanted to clarify that indeed you are allowed to use utility revenues to offset your property taxes. But when I look at where we are, if you could scroll up to the reserves there, Elvira, we haven't been putting in anything into our reserves with respect to water or sewer. So if we increase the fees for our water and sewer, then you certainly can use those to offset the property taxes, but it's strongly recommended not to do that, especially when we have a reserve balance of 0.
Thank
So
you for that.
I'll leave that there. The stormwater calculation, there are municipalities, thank you, Councillor Clark, for sharing that information. There are a number of municipalities that have that in there and have those calculations. Some do it as a flat rate charge and bury it into their utility fees for maintenance. Others do a more complex mechanism in the details that Councillor Clark shared. So that's an option, but that would be a fairly large undertaking for administration to do. We would definitely need some help in doing that and probably take us a good chunk of the year to do that. And then once it's in place, it'd become another line item on the tax bill going out. So it would be there and you would see that, and it would require time to administrate, calculate, and determine what those are. So we can do those, but there is an operational impact on our staff.
Thank you for that.
I just wanted to clarify that we have a minor amount in the water sewer reserves. We just haven't been contributing for a number of years.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we didn't move too far down on our project and capital list there. We're still sitting fairly high. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go around to each counselor and ask them what they're wanting to get out of this budget, what they'd like to see, where they're thinking that they want to be at, and how they're going to feel comfortable in passing this. So who would I like to start with? Colin? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it almost half of what it is, really. 8.9%, if we look at it at a percentage perspective, that's tough pill to swallow for anybody, including myself. So that's where 4.5, maybe 5, somewhere in there.
Okay. So Colin, you're saying 4.5 to 5, and you'd want to see maybe that those projects still come down half. We're at 1.1 million, I believe, Elvira, right? So we're at 1.1 million, so somewhere between 500-600. And what does that get us at? 500,000-600,000? Is that right at that, Elvira? Yeah.
Sorry, what is the question?
So if we were to get everything down to 500,000-600,000, that takes us roughly to a 4.55%.
Correct.
Okay. Amela, I'll go to you next.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tough out there. The inflation, for both sides, of course, the town has to bear that as well, but also for the committee member, inflation has gone up. The interest rates for mortgage has gone up significantly. There's a struggle to make ends meet out there. We've seen more and more usage on food bank. Not immigrants, but there's a larger demographic that uses food banks as well. So there's those pressures. So we need to balance all of that. And when I think of what we've discussed so far, we've discussed about increase of user fees for about 3%, and we've discussed about COLA for about 2.53%. And I think I'm there with the tax increase as well. If we can get to about 3%, then I can stand behind that.
So you're saying 3%. So you're saying to cut probably at least 700,000-800,000 more of the projects. So more cuts. It's the only way we're going to get there. Tom?
Well, I'm of the mind that if we're only talking about the number, percent to 3, because 3%, you know, it looks like that's reasonable and fair, and with inflation and everything else that's facing our community. Where my struggle, of course, is that, so what of this, you know, in the last sort of 3 or 4 or 5 days that we've been at it, I don't know where we're going to get it. And if I say to you guys, go find it, I'm not sure what you're going to do when we finish the meeting today. That doesn't seem quite right to me either. If we can't decide here, then on what we're cutting, then I hate to send it back to administration to say, find it. I just can't see it. I think we've worked hard at it, and I think we need to be responsible. And I think I could stay where we're at. If you're going to call it 8% or 9% or 10%, I think that responsibility lies with us, and we've somewhere along the line got to take that hit and be responsible about it. And that may not sit well with our taxpayers, but I get it. I don't see what we can do, but I'm certainly willing to spend more time working at it.
Okay, thank you for that. I will go to Monica.
So I'm just worried about the future too. I mean, if we just keep cutting and pushing projects aside and, you know, not be able to run this down the way it's, you know, it's requested by the administration or, you know, the staff. And I mean, the projects are just piling up, and I don't want to end up where Osoyoos ended up, where eventually they had to raise taxes on one shot at 39%. So I would be probably comfortable, and realistically speaking, we're looking between 8 and 10% probably.
So you're the same as Tom, staying, right?
Yes.
Okay, staying as is. Okay, Bill?
Looking at 4.5 to 5%, similar to Colin.
Same as Colin, so cutting still 500,000.
Can I
Correct?
just- Could I pipe in for a second?
I just want to get Bill, you're looking at still cutting 500,000, right, Bill?
If that's what it takes, yes, we have to look at somewhere.
Okay, Monica?
I know it's tough, but I think we're gonna keep it around 4.5 to 5%.
Okay, thank you. Monica?
So we're going by percentages right now. Is there a way that for people online that we could do an average household, how it would affect?
Yeah, and that's typically what we do. It is up there right now.
Oh, I can't see it.
So the average cost per residential would be $211. Oh my gosh, I almost said $1,000. $211 a year and $17 a month. And
At
for the
8.9.
at 8.9, and the average commercial would be $1,300 per year and $113 a month.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Thank you. I had to zoom in. Thank you.
Yeah, 211 a year, 8.9. Okay, Rick?
Yeah, I'm close to a few of the other folks. I'd like to see us stay around that 5.5%. I'd even look at 6. I think that's sort of a happy medium, if you will. Although I agree with Tom as well. I don't know where we're going to find it. Boy, we've cut pretty close to the bone here and not putting much away. So anyway, that's my opinion.
Thank you very much for that. For myself, yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of the where we're at, and probably the 5.5 to 6% as Rick's comment. I feel like there is a few things that we can still cut off the list when I look at maintaining. I think there's a lot of external things that we're funding right now. So I think to keep the service level where we're needing to be, to keep the project still moving ahead, because when we look at that 10-year projection of capital projects, we don't want to be deferring them year after year after year. We want to be able to can move forward with them as well as equipment. So keeping that in mind, for me, I do see some more cuts. I think when I look at SOS Media, Brazu and Beyond Travel Guide, I think that that is not a need to maintain that customer service and everyday thing. I think that's something external that could be cut. I think potentially even Eagle Point's Blue Rapids, as wonderful as they're doing, I think, we've sent them a letter. Perhaps we, try to advocate for more dollars for them. Again, that's external. As Colin had suggested, cost of living adjust, 1.5 or 2%, I guess, 2% rather than the 5. Citizen budget we cut. I would look again at maybe the vac truck operator at 96,000 as well. We only seen a savings of $30,000 there. So, $30,000 compared to 96, maybe this just isn't the year, right, to be hiring. So maybe that's something that we continue to do as we're doing. When it comes to capital projects, I don't really know if there's a lot of wiggle room there. I don't think we want to be deferring things.
If I may,
Go ahead, Elvira.
reducing the COLA to 2% would save us 80,000.
Okay, so we'd save 80 there. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at for a little bit further because, yeah, I am not expecting to say, well, it is what it is. We don't want to be there and administration go back and do that. I think that they've done their due diligence. They've worked hard to present us this budget. And, I know that there's a lot of things that they would have liked to seen come forward because we can see it when we look at our previous budgets and we're just not seeing them on here, right? So we have to take that in mind. Where are we at for conferences? I could pull up remunerations too from conference budget. I mean, we could cut conference budget or education, whatever we're at. If we're at, what's the total for council for training and conference?
I'm just pulling it out to highlight the amounts. I know that we have not, as a whole, we have not used it all up in 2023.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, but shave off something there too. Sure, yeah.
What is
do
our
we-
allowance per year, I guess is the question.
What do we have remaining, Elvira?
So right now, our total budget between councils, each their development, AUMA, FCM, and RMA. So those are the ones that we've budgeted for a total of 75,000. So each councillor has 5. And the mayor has 8 each. And so the whole budget for professional development, I believe is what we call it, council development, is 75,000. And right now, I just want to confirm, as of September, we'd only spent just about 30. So I will go in.
And that's, well, because we didn't go to FCM.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't want to.
FCM was because of the wildfires. So we do only have 2 allocated for FCM.
Yeah.
But we've incorporated, RMA there. So we've only used 30, so 75.
And FCM is 10,000. So we didn't use it. So 30 plus the 10. And I believe RMA was in November, so we probably hadn't accounted for that. So just allow me to go in to see now what we're at, and then I'll have a better number. So
There's 2 RMA conferences per year, correct? Spring and fall?
yeah, I don't believe we usually send people in the spring, do we?
No,
It's not budgeted anyways,
well, it's not
Unless you're
budgeted
using
for
your
any
personal-
RMA.
unless you're using your personal development,
Yeah,
like because we have AUMA that's separate and RMA that's separate and FCM, and then everything else falls into your personal budgets, I guess you could say.
we don't have RMA that's separate.
Yeah, we have 1 mayor and 1 councillor.
For
right now.
RMA?
Yeah. $6,000.
I don't remember that either.
Yeah, I thought it's always came out of our
Personal.
Personal.
conference budget, right? So, but maybe, we can probably save 50 or 60,000 and then shave off the rest. And if somebody's going over, they can always come back to the council and ask for more, right? So
Yeah.
What's our personal development
5,000
each?
each, which it used to be 7, but we're finding year over year that wasn't being spent. And so we reduced it to 5 only to be more in line with what was actually being spent. But yeah, this year with the wildfire, like I think it kind of slowed us down a little bit as well
Mhm.
in terms of conferences, but
So what was your suggestion, Amila, from 75 to 6? What did you say?
60, yeah, I would say 60, and then, like I said, if there's a need, then we can always come back to the council for more. As Alvira is saying, I don't think we've gone over. We're budgeting it, but we are not going over it.
Or 50,000 even?
okay, so sorry, I got a little excited there. You spent 61,400 to date
Okay.
out of 75.
So whatever's remaining, like Wally said, take off? Whatever that is?
Well, we could, but if you didn't do FCM
Oh.
this year, then that's $10,000. So we would be at 70
So
already.
what, the RMA attendance this year though, did those come out of anybody's personals or was that?
Well, there's allocations, it all goes to the same account. So we do have an additional line item for it right now. But we could remove it and then people would just have to decide if they have space within theirs and only go if they do.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing too is we could just say 1 or 2 go instead of 4 or 5.
That's how it is already.
Right now,
But how
This
many
is the
did we
mayor and
have
one
go to the
councillor.
last RMA though?
3, was it?
3.
4, right? So I guess we're not meeting that cap is what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
Let's stick to our caps and not spend the money that we don't need to be spending. So
And same with FCM, just UMA is our one that we need to advocate at. I agree. Anybody other comments from anyone online?
I think if we can tighten up there and save a little bit of money, we should. We're asking staff to do the same thing, and I think it's the least we can do.
Okay, so, how does everybody feel like about, because everyone's still going down a little bit, revisiting some of the projects? I had put a suggestion out there for some removal. Does anyone want to comment on those?
yeah,
ahead, Colin.
I'm okay cutting the stuff that maybe isn't core, and I'm also in favor of cutting things that are upping our service level as opposed to maintaining, right? So, you know, the back truck operator is I think is a clear one that, you know, that's upping it, of course, while we are realizing some savings in not hiring contractors. You know, we're still spending 96, right? With a savings of what, projected 30-ish? Yeah, so far. So I don't know, that's an obvious one to me. And on the capital side, I think, which one popped out at me here? I mean, the CCAN, I mean, that one is only 12, but the big ticket items there are the ones like the server replacement. Maybe let's think about it. Other than that, I don't know. We have some more tough decisions to make, so.
What about operating SOS, Brazil Beyond, Eagle Point, EPBR?
Yeah, I mean, Brazu and SOS, I think, I don't know. One of the other things I'm also looking at is growing the community, right? Those ones are investments into doing that as well as the number of people impacted. So I think those are important. And I think if we can really push hard and be impactful about how we go about getting some funding for that from the provincial government, Travel Alberta, I think we should do it still.
So can we talk about the back truck operator and then go from there? And
Sure.
possibly, I know you guys brought up cost of living, but I don't know if we've actually made a decision on it and then we
Sure.
can look after.
We'll do that. I'll just go to Rick and then Bill first.
Yeah, I know we had bumped up the landfill rates by, I thought I heard 1.5% or something. Did we want to look at that again and see if we want to increase those a little bit more? If there's much there to find, I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll write that as a suggestion. Bill?
Thank you. I agree with Colin on the SOS and the travel guide. I think that's an investment in our community. I think we invested in it already, and I think we've seen good results, and I definitely want to see that stay in my opinion. However, I want to talk about the bylaw vehicle. Have we discussed that
We took it out.
completely?
Yeah. You good, Bill? Okay, you might just want to mute. Okay, I'm gonna circle back around, then, and we'll talk about the vac truck first. So Colin and I are saying, let's take it out. So I'm gonna go around once again. I'll start with you, Tom.
Are we the only ones that get to talk about it? Is this table? Not the,
No, you can have Shelley.
So we're talking about the vac truck operator. I talked at length with Bill yesterday about what he can do with it and what it can do and why we need it. And so that justification of why, right? So it goes to the same question to Tom about the CCAN and space, right? So I think working together, let's try to decide. So vac truck operator.
The reason we brought that one forward is if we've invested money into that truck, that is a big ticket item.
Number.
Pardon me?
What's the number? It was
Oh. Was it, was it for the vac truck? I want to say it was 500,000. I don't know if that's what we actually spent on that truck. So the idea is to keep it moving at all times to recover our cost into that investment. Of course, we've been now how many years without the vac truck operator? We can push harder and see if we can do more in-house with what we have. I understand you guys have really tough decisions to make here, and I understand that. So
Thank you, Your Worship. So some of the cuts that have been made and some of the ones that we're discussing right now, like the vac truck operator, the cuts around the valve replacement program, the manhole lining. To me, the vac truck operator is different. Not really, but those three items allow us to perform preventative maintenance. And without doing preventative maintenance, we're going to run into issues. So I get nervous when we start cutting things like manhole lining, valve replacement programs. Those should be ideally buried into our core budget and be programs annually that we run so that we can ensure that, that the town is doing all right. I think, some of the items that, and staff may beat me up on this, but I think a couple of the items that we may want to have another look at would be Greenwood drainage ditch upgrades, right? I think we have some data that shows there's encroachment onto the land there. So that's one that could be considered. As much as I fought for the permitting system, maybe we delay that one because that doesn't take away from preventative maintenance and potentially causes issues down the road. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you're starting to look at some of these items, e-permitting is a service level enhancement. The manhole lining and, I'm not suggesting you put those back in. You guys have made those decisions, but in the future and when we start talking about, the vac truck operator, to me, that one's an important one. It's going to allow us to make sure things keep flowing. So, my 2 cents.
So I just want to go back to that. I think we're almost $1 million into a truck and we made a decision 2 or 3 years ago to buy a truck because we thought it was important. So we got sold, not a bill of goods. We got sold on buying a vacuum truck because that's what we should do. And we're not using it. That makes no sense to me. Yeah.
We are using it, but
Well,
we're not using it to the full capacity that we could be
I
using
think
it.
at best we're 15%. So it's, and if we have to go, and quite frankly, in my mind, if we have to go to a 10% increase in taxes, that's when that, and I'm with Wally on bringing back the manhole stuff. I agree with that. That's the responsibility of us, right? So I can get behind getting rid of the SOS and Randy, we got to figure out a different way to fund them. I think they've got good projects, but we can't do it through the taxpayers' dollar, then we have to figure out another way.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, that's just my thought on that.
Just to clarify, I'm not suggesting to bring back cuts you've already made because we're trying to
We're
knock
trying
that
to
down.
eliminate, yes.
In future years, though, when we see those, I would ask that you consider the long-term consequences of not having those programs in place.
Just trying to find my comment from yesterday. We're talking about the back truck. There was a comment online in regards to the operator in our truck and things like this. And I cannot find my comments. I'm going to have Shelley answer because she will do a much better job. Thank you, Shelley.
So the question that was raised was, why do we not just use contracted vac trucks? There's lots of vac trucks in town, and why we didn't budget an operator at the time of purchase. I'll address the operator at the time of purchase first. I think it was believed that we could do it with the manpower we had. Unfortunately, with the other demands, we've realized that's just not possible to keep the truck moving at all times. As for the comment towards the other hydrovac units, this is a specialty truck. There's nothing like it in town. No other hydrovac unit has the combo system where you have the flushing reel on the front end so you can get down the sewer lines. So that's the difference between a contractor's hydrovac and what we own today. It is a very critical piece of equipment, and I'm very grateful that the town purchased it because we did spend a lot of money having third-party companies come from out of town to do the work for us. And with this truck, we have the capability of doing it ourselves.
Thank you for that. And that's a very special comment that we're having contractors come from out of town to provide us this service. So that gives me some clarity, I guess, as well as to Tom's comment of why we did this and why we're paying for it. So thought we were going one direction, but we're pulling back another direction. So I'm not sure if we're moving any further ahead. So we're kind of around, everybody's a little bit mixed. Some of you are happy at staying where we're at with the tax. Some want to see it lower. If we're wanting to see it lower, we're going to have to make some decisions. So maybe we'll circle back and see. We did change a couple things here. Maybe if we can have a little update on that, Elvira.
Overview. Sorry, I must have missed something because I don't know what we cut since the last time we checked.
Okay, so we talked about changing COLA from 2.5 to 2.
Okay, so we had,
Yeah, we had council. There was, I thought there was 3 things. Well, we could throw those in and see.
So, 2% would cost 80. Sorry, I said save 80. I meant cost 80 rather than 112, which is what these two are. Oh, I'm on the wrong sheet. And 1.5 would cost us 60,000, which would save us about half of what was on here. So I'm just gonna go to the other sheet and plug it in there for now.
Sure.
So if we were to decrease COLA to percent to 1.5% rather than 2.5, I'm just making sure it's being, yeah, it would decrease our net requirement to just over 1 million, 8.4. If we were to decrease, let's say 15 from council, I know it's not a lot, but we're down to 8.2. That's all I'd heard so far. So please give further direction if you want me to remove anything else. So if I'm hearing correctly, then reduce COLA to 1.5.
Colin?
I'd be okay with reducing it to 1.5, I think.
I'll go to Colin, then Rick, then Bill.
So with respect to operations and wages, is this assuming we're 100% capacity?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so what are we typically running? Like, are we 90% capacity in terms of wages?
Well, this is applying it to the grid, so it's not applied directly to everyone's wages necessarily. It's slightly different. But yeah, almost every year we have some sort of vacancy. It's hard to know. It changes drastically depending on if it's a CAO or if it's somebody at ECDC. So it's hard to budget for vacancy. But yeah, this is.
I guess one way to look at it though is we can bank on that not being 100% of what we're budgeting for, is I guess what I'm saying, right? Okay.
Okay. There was the comment made about citywide e-permits, pushing it for one more year. How is that? I'm getting a nod from Amila, Colin, Tom, myself. Rick?
Yeah, I was just going to comment, I'd be in support of bumping the permitting system. What was the other
Okay.
thing Wally mentioned?
Greenwood drainage ditch, and if we bumped or deferred both of those projects, I believe it takes us down to about 7.5%.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd be in support of that. And I think if there's some issues there with encroachment, it's going to take some time to sort those out as well before we could pull the trigger on the project anyway. So it might have been delayed until next year anyhow.
So yeah, we can deal with the encroachment and then deal with that. I'm going to ask you one more comment before I go to Amila, is what else from the operating project list would you consider cutting? Because we're still not there. That was to you, Rick. I'm going to go to all of you.
My apologies. I'm not sure what's left, to be honest with you. It's easier when we have the list up there.
Well, okay, we can put the list back up there. So we have, we've kept SOS Media, Brazil and Beyond Travel. Youth Advisory was 1,600, Reconciliation and Cultural Diversity, Sustainability contingent on a grant, 7,000, EPBR, floater position, Omniplex camera expansion. Did we keep Agents of Discovery? No, I think we pushed it. We pushed that. Emergency management contract, COLA at 1.5%. Back truck operator, and that's it. Can we bring the list up online, and then I'm going to ask all of the counselors to look at it again. You all want to be somewhere, but nobody wants to cut anything, so I'm going to have to put the pressure on. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm going to go with the operating rate now. Capital, I think, is just a little too touchy. I'm still waiting on Rick, Emil, and then I'll go to
Sure.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, there's not much left there of significance, other than the vac truck operator.
Okay, that's your cut maybe, even with the comments you heard from Shelley, Wally, and Tom?
Yes, I'm not happy about it, but if we want to get it down, to what we feel is reasonable, I'm just not sure what's left there.
Okay, Amila?
Thank you. Again, I'm going through the list of
Can you go up, Pam? To the top of the list, please.
what we've kept so far. Most of it internal. If we go through the theme of internal versus external, I think SOS and Brazil Beyond, it's a tough call. I understand the importance of having those there. It's getting our community name out there and all of that, but maybe we need to be creative and work with them to find some funds elsewhere rather than taxpayers. So I'm okay with cutting those two.
Okay. Needing some other comments from operating, Colin?
Yeah, I would cut both SOS and Brazil, and then tell them we'll work with them on grant funding. Then the other question, though, if I may, bump to facility branding. We still had funds from last year, right?
Yeah.
Can we cut those as well? Yeah. Yeah. So in all, it'd be 42. We okay
I'm
with
not in support of that.
It's just delaying putting the signs up.
Not in support. Okay, you say branding. Okay, Tom?
Not sure what you're talking about. We've got 16 left in facility.
50,000 in the branding that we didn't do from the 2023 capital or operating project to put the little banners up and change some signage.
You could knock that off for me.
I just find it amazing how this council sat around and talked about beautification and town pride, but yet you're cutting all those
I'm
things.
putting it into an equipment operator.
Okay, Amila?
And then if we're to the SOS
Yeah,
and Brandy, then I think we can figure out a different way to fund them. I'll take it out of my education budget.
things are starting to get hostile. Okay, Amila?
Yeah, I would agree with Tom. I think town beautification is important, but I think having a running town is more important than that. So I'm sorry. It's just, so I'm okay with taking that out.
Okay, so it's removing SOS, removing Brazil, and removing branding that was in the budget from last year. Monica?
So going down my list, I would cut the SOS Media and the Brazil and Beyond from our budget and try to help them out in different ways. Agree with the cuts to council budget by 15,000. Then I was looking at the administration, the number 78 organizational wide training program. It's at $54,000 now because we took 6,000 towards reconciliation and cultural diversity. So it's still at 54,000. And I just have a question for administration. Is there a lot of in-person training? Could we maybe look more towards online training, Zoom meetings instead of in person? Would that cut it down? Is there room to maybe cut it down to, let's say, 40?
Thank you very much for the question. There's always an opportunity to do online training. I was just found a lot of times there isn't that impact online versus in person, but again, there is always that option. And there would be small savings in that for sure. It's a cost to travel. There's always fees associated with facilitators and that.
Yes, so could we maybe consider cutting that a little bit? Is anybody else looking at it that way?
So what would you say would be, it's at 54 right now? So if you went 45, like, is that, can you give us a number roughly that you think if you were to move some of them online or maybe postpone some till the following year? Get
Of
that down a
course,
bit?
there's always, if there's a budget to work within, there's always ways we can try to facilitate and meet that budget. It might even be just a shift in planning for something for the following year, or yeah, there's always ways to work around a value. And I guess an additional comment to the online piece, depending on what kind of training available, not all of our employees, it's not as easy to facilitate online training for all of our employees. We do have a very diverse group of employees. So for administrative staff, that's a lot more feasible. But when you're talking about people who work in the field or the daycare, online isn't always the best option for them. But again, depending on the types of trainings that we're putting on.
Yeah. Thank you. And then just to keep in mind too, that, we reduce the COLA, we reduce the employee recognition, and we talk about employee retention, we talk about attraction, we talk about all that, right? So we're trying to get people to move to our community and work here. So we have to be mindful of that. So
I understand that. It just, when it comes to training, this is specifically for training. And I know it's very important, and it sounds like it's very important to our administration. It's just at this, for the 2024, maybe limited to like $40,000 budget. It's, and see what can be done, see how it goes.
I'm going to go to Bill for comment.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm confused as to where we want to go. Are we looking at, why are we cutting all these things? Are we cutting it because we want to go to 4% or 5%? What's our objective here? Because let me finish for a minute here. Because I feel that we're cutting services and we're talking about the SOS and the travel guide. And I think that's an investment in our town. And I think it's so beneficial. We've already spent $75,000 and now we're just going to say, hey, forget it. And I don't agree with that. If we have to get a 7 and 8% tax increase, then let's be responsible and do it. If we want to provide a community service, then let's suck it up.
So I think that going around and getting input from all the councillors, of seeing what they feel comfortable, we all have to be able to pass a budget and feel confident to pass a budget. So we're looking at how are we spending taxpayers' dollars, right? And that was the comment that Amila made, is that taxpayers' dollars will be spent on some of these projects, particularly SOS or Beyond and Brazil. So if you can speak to that, then, and you're in support of that, then I'm hearing that you want to keep it on. But we also have to be mindful that that is not a service that we're offering as the town of Drayton Valley that's external to us.
Nor our flowers, nor our signs.
So we're having to get down, so we can leave it the way that it is, but we're still going to be at 8 to 9 to 10%. So if you're comfortable with passing a budget at 8 to 9 to 10%, then we don't need to be cutting things. But if you're wanting to get down to what I heard was 4.5 or 5%, that's needing to shave $500,000 off some of these projects. So we've got to be able to bend somewhere. I'll go to Elvira.
Okay, so try to do all the things right as you're speaking. So maybe at the end, we'll have a quick review just to make sure I did capture everything properly. But when I removed the Greenwood drainage, the e-permits, SOS, and the travel guide. And that gets us, and 15,000 from council development and 15,082 from last year's facility branding.
Oh, no, that was only 3 people agreed to that.
Oh, okay.
No. Because then
Put that
Monica.
back in. I was getting excited here. We're at 7.13%. Removing, okay, I guess we're not removing branding.
Which is about $167 a year for the average household.
167. So we need to keep in mind that as council, we're going to need to pass this budget. So there's probably things on this list that you're not in support of being removed or being added or things like that. But we pass the budget as a whole with every item on it, not one particular item in your mind. So our job is to be fiscally responsible, and it is our fiduciary obligation to pass a budget, and one that we feel that the residents can get behind and support. So we have to be able to speak to all of these things in our budget. So right now, we are with the projects that are left on our capital project list and our operating project list, we are at a 7.5, and that equals about $167 per household of an increase. So how is council feeling at passing the budget? Because if we move into budget and we pass this and no one's comfortable, then we're going to be back to the starting board. So I need council to be comfortable with this. And if you're not, then we still have to move. So that's where we're at. So you have your hand up, Bill. I'll go to you.
Yeah, thank you. You said we're at 160 what?
167 per household, 7.5%.
Elvira, could you put $58,400 back in and just tell me what that's going to make a difference?
Yes.
Thank you.
So it went from 7.13 to 7.62.
And per month?
Sorry, okay, so it changed from 167. I have to recalculate it. Sorry, that one's not linked. It went from 7.1% to 7.6%.
$167 per month, it would go to what, 170?
Around that. I have to go and relink it. It wasn't updating, so I will need a minute.
Anything else, Bill?
No, I just want to know the numbers.
Okay, I'll go to Tom.
I just have a question about the sleeping giant. We've not talked about the $6 million item. And I don't understand where we're at and whether we will actually spend all that money in next year. And can I get a better understanding of
The debentures, capital projects.
And I don't know if it fits into the debentures. It's there though. It's $6 million, right?
It's not part of the,
Probably 7. So it's not part of any of this discussion.
The only way to fund that is to debenture it. So it has an impact on our taxes going forward in terms of our debenture repayment, but it doesn't have an impact
It's not factored.
on this budget that we're talking about right now, only because we're deferring it via debenture repayments. And so if we debenture next year, then they would start in 2025. And then it would have a tax impact, but not for this budget.
did you have a question, comment, Colin? No? Okay, Amela, how are you feeling right now about 7.1%?
Same way that I felt an hour ago.
Yeah. So with that being said, again, we have to keep in mind, if we're not feeling good about that, we're not going to be able to pass a budget. So if all of us come to the next meeting, special meeting, and we're not feeling, and we can't get behind the 7.1, then we won't be passing a budget. And then administration will have the rest of the year off because we haven't passed a budget, so we need to, no. Because our next council meeting is a special council meeting and that's when we pass. So today is your last day. So I'm not sure where to go from here. Maybe I'll call a 5-minute break. You guys think about it. I'm going to come back and I'm going to go back around again. So far I've heard from Mila and he's not comfortable with this. So I'm going to go back around and see how comfortable. And if I'm hearing that the majority is not comfortable, that means that we will not be passing a budget. So 5 minutes to think about it and then we will reconvene. Okay, we will reconvene here at 11:30 and we are going to knock it out of the park here in the next 15 minutes, I tell you. So I did have a couple questions and thoughts on the break there. My first one is going to be to Shelley in regards to the vac truck operator. Vac truck operator, 96,000 full-time position. Could we advertise this as a casual or seasonal position and cut this in half and do some of the work? I don't know, like November, I'm just throwing it out, the November to March or something like, is there a way that we could use the machine seasonal, like rather than a full-time position that we'd advertise for either casual or we'd advertise for a seasonal position where maybe it would be just for 4 or 5 months or something. And then that would be $40,000, 50, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll defer to Shelley on this, but the one challenge would be is we're always competing with the oil patch for skill sets like that, right? So who, would somebody want to take a position for a short term?
Sometimes there's retired or semi-retired people, right? Like that's what I was kind of thinking. Just some thoughts. I'm just looking at, 7.1, 7.5, like we're there. I'd like to even be in the 6, like, 6 point something, just because I know that a lot of municipalities are right in that 6 range, right? So just thinking of that. And I guess the reason I was thinking that, and these are my comments, and then I can see everyone's hands are starting to raise. My next thing was circling back around, moving COLA back up to what the original was and asking for that training to be split over 2 years. So my suggestion was bumping COLA back up to what it was, training divided over 2 years, and then the vac truck operator at a casual or part-time.
I would have to agree with Wally on that. I think it'd be hard to fill that position. I do feel if you're going to cut the entire thing. And then I can try to see where I can find efficiencies within Public Works to get it on the road the best I can and bring it back again next year for round 2.
Okay, I will go to, I think Rick had his hand up first.
Yeah, I just had a question. I'm looking at the sheet up right now, the public transit feasibility study. Is that a desperate need for us at this point, or could we bump that? And I agree with your COLA bump and the split the training. I also agree that we'd have to do a full-time position. You're asking for somebody with a Class 3 license and some experience with that. I think we'd have a hard time filling it part-time.
Okay, thank you for that, Rick. So I'm just going to write Rick down. I'm going to keep track of the COLA thing. And then that. So what was the comment from Rick was?
Those were projects that were deferred last year and they were just at the bottom of my list. It's not on this year's.
Oh, okay. That would have been really nice. Thanks, Rick. I was like, wow, how did we miss that?
I had my hopes up there. I thought, boy,
Yeah.
that'll knock 0.5% off.
Wow, yeah, you brought mine up there for a second too. Okay, I'll go to Monica now unless, did you have anything else, Rick?
No, not for now. Thank you.
Okay, Monica?
So this is a question for Elvira. If you could maybe pull out the chart where it says that the town dropped taxes back in 2017 and 18, I believe it was. And over the years, over the past 5 years or so, are we even back up to what we were back then? Are we caught up?
We are just, I believe we caught up at the end of last year, but let me pull it up. Or were we down 1% still? Let me look. Operating, or was it? Overview? Cost escalation, okay. Yeah, we caught up at the end of last year.
Okay, so we currently are still in coming into 2024, we are where
Oh.
we were back in 2017.
Yeah, so 2017 and then 2018, they increased a little bit. So if we take 2018 or 2019 before the decrease, or sorry, 2018 before the decrease in 2019, yeah, we're just catching up.
So
So
technically
yeah.
speaking, we are a few years behind.
Yes. So when I mentioned before, usually our long-term trends are based on, 2.5% or 3% a year. And so if we had increased 2.5% per year all these years, then we would be at just about 2 million more in net revenues than what we are right now. So it will take us a while to catch up to the rate at which we should be traveling and where we are. It will catch us a while to or take us a while to catch up. But yeah, you're right. We're just now resuming 2018 rates for
Exactly.
income. Yeah.
And we can't get things done that need to be done because of, we were short for a long time. I don't think 8 to 10% tax increase is not reasonable. I mean, we gotta be realistic. These cuts are insane. And it's just being pushed forward, and it is what it is. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so it is 11:40 almost. I had started with Amila going around asking if he's comfortable with the 7 point, I think we were at the 1%. I had made a couple suggestions. I'm not sure if anyone wants to discuss the suggestions, or do we want to just jump into, are you happy with where we're at right now?
Well, I would support the COLA suggestion that you have.
Okay, I'll maybe go there then. So that was 3, Colin? Back to 2.5.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that? Amila?
Sorry, what was the suggestion?
I had said to bring COLA back in, to bump COLA back up to what it was and divide the training over 2 years. I guess.
There's no impact to the number?
Yeah,
So
going back to
there
the
would be a
number.
small impact. So I'll just do one change at a time. So if I increase COLA back, we're at an 8%, 8.07. And if I divide the training in half, we're at 7.84.
I guess the reasoning behind this is I do worry that when we look at that, we're at the 50%, we might even be slightly under the 50% in hiring a few municipalities. And then when you start to do things like that, it makes it, we could lose potentially other, and there's just that risk. So I think that if we're wanting to maintain a service level and, the quality of care in our community, that it's important to be mindful of where we're making some of these cuts too when it comes to that. So how do you feel about that, Amila? Okay. Okay. So Monica, you have your hand up?
Oh, no, sorry.
Bill?
Thank you. Question for Elvira. Has the county paid all their fund, what they owe us?
They are up to date with the recreation, I believe. They're not up to date on the ECDC amount, which is minor compared to the recreation. But yeah, they were, last time I checked, they had paid to the last of their invoices for recreation. So, yeah.
What does that come to approximately?
They, oh my gosh, I'd have to pull it up to know the exact amount, but I think it's just about 1.1 million that they pay us in recreation a year. 1.2 maybe.
They owe us or?
No,
the-
no, 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 no,
they've
they're up to
already
date.
paid?
Yeah,
Okay, that,
ECDC is between 30 to 50 or what is 30 to 50,000
for a year, yeah.
per year.
can I ask you, Elvira, if I'm still sold on the SOS and travel guide, which is 58,000 roughly. But if we put that in and took out the back operator, and I'm not sure if everybody's in favor of removing the back operator or not.
Yeah, we're still talking about that. I'd have to circle back around to the SOS bill, but there was 5 of us that wanted it removed, so.
Well, there were 6 of us that wanted it in a while ago, so.
So we went back around.
It's changing.
Okay, I'll go back around again. Tom? It's taken out right now.
Yeah, I put it in the back operator.
Colin?
Yeah, I think the back operator needs to be in there. And like I said before, I think the SOS and Brazos and Beyond should be grant funded.
Amila?
Yeah, I can support that, what Colin mentions. I think service levels, maintaining service levels is important.
Thank you for that. I would agree with that. Rick?
Yeah, I'm okay with it that way.
Monica?
Absolutely agree with removing both of them and sticking with the back operator.
Sorry, Bill.
With,
Yeah,
What was that?
so be
Okay.
it.
Okay, yeah, so I think that that's not the end of it. As Colin suggested, I think there's a couple grants out there that potentially we can get behind them and supporting and driving forward, or, you know, be an applicant or however we want to try to get them the funds. So Rick, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mentioned it before, but is there an appetite to look at the landfill rates and see if we can find a little more money there?
What do you think, Elvira? If we,
2.5. I think we likely could increase our revenues slightly. I know that back when we increased the counties or the out of town, I should say, we were concerned that what it was going to do is actually just decrease our tonnage. This year is kind of a weird year because of the wildfire. We saw different, because that's the time that people would be spring cleaning, is right when we were out for the wildfire. So I think our tonnage was a little lower this year, but I think that people still use the landfill, even if we increase it by a little bit, especially the companies. So we definitely can increase it by a little bit. That's totally up to council.
so when you say little bit, what would your suggestion be?
I would say we could do up to 5%.
What does that give us?
I will need a minute.
Okay. Amila, do you have a comment?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just, again, thinking out loud, but how about the user fees for our facilities? I know we've increased it 2.5% or something. Would you suggest maybe we can get some more revenue out of those?
Are you talking about like the Omniplex? So both the Omniplex and the aquatic facility saw exceptional increases last year. So our recommendation was to keep it the same this year, because I do know that at some point we have to be somewhat comparable, especially in our ice rates, and I know we are. And I think Heather was saying there might be an opportunity to increase ever so slightly. Is that correct? To be in line with others, but we're very much in line with others. And yeah, like council can choose to, this is entirely your decision, but it was not it was not administration's recommendation for this year, only because of how big of an increase we had last year. So we want to stagger it. So if we see a large increase one year, then we maybe wait a year and then we start doing slow increases, so we don't get to that point again where we're doing huge bumps. So that was why administration did not recommend an increase in the pool or Omniplex rates. We did increase the fitness though.
What about Mackenzie Conference Center and the CTC? I know talking to somebody last year, they were saying that our rates weren't comparable to other wedding site venues. Is that the right word? Thank you. Wedding site venues, that we were low. So, and like the CTC is a pretty nice building in high demand, right? So just wondering what were the rental increases for MCC and particularly the CTC and compared to last year? Do you know, Hans?
Both of them increased last year and not this year, I believe.
Because
can
I
pull it up.
still feel that the CTC, and that was a comment from a wedding organizer, that we were still below and comparable. And I think we were even below like to Whitby Hall and places like around. And not that we're competing, but that for a brand new or a newer facility like that, that we were quite low.
Thank you for that question. Excuse me. So yes, we are, let's say, comparable to the market, absolutely on the, let's say, little bit below average area over there. We did increase previous year, and we see now, of course, the uptake after COVID. So if it's the wish of council, of course, to look into it and what would the effect be, it will be marginal, of course, in the total budget effect, but there is, let's say, room to increase fees in that sense, maybe now or in the coming years, to be 2.5% or even a little bit above that to catch up with averages.
So if we're below, okay. Okay, thank you, Hans. And then also going into reserves, what do we have going into reserves exactly? Remind me again. We have the infrastructure sustainability reserve, plus we have the additional reserves. What does that total for number or percent? Outside of like landfill, which we have to designate.
Okay, I just calculated that 2.5% increase over what we already did would
Yeah.
be 37,900 for Aspen Waste. So I will put that in first so that I don't
Yep.
get confused here. 37,900. And I will share the screen. Overview. Okay, so we're putting landfill that's required, and we're putting 1.25 of the 2023's tax revenues, so the prior years, because they're already set into reserves, into a capital reserve. This is the fund that council started 2 years ago. We started at 1% and then 1.25.
Yeah.
Recreation, this was last year when we brought the ice plant forward. Council decided to put money into reserves each year leading up to the year that it absolutely needs to be done, and that was 166,000 a year. And for protective services, we have the AFREX radios we're saving up for, and the Travis fees that we're putting into reserves, which brings our required reserves to 821. So this, again, I just want to emphasize, this is not the recommended amount. We're very low on reserve transfers. This is either council commitment or required. For 821,942. And so with the savings or the increased revenues that we are hoping to see at the landfill by increasing the fees to 5% rather than 2.5%, our rate is now 6.96, with the vac truck operator remaining in and the COLA increase, correct, back to 2.5.
Okay. I think for me, I'm almost there. Yeah. Tom's there.
There's a question about we had a discussion about the library at HCA. We're in discussions with them to
Oh, good.
see if we can arrange some different agreement?
Correct. I don't know if we've started them yet, but it's on the list of things to do, yeah.
So it's 10 to 12. I'm going to go around and ask everybody. We're at 6.96%. That equals about 150 or 650. Okay, 6.96%. Elvira's just updating what that percentage will be per household. I'm going to go around and ask if everyone is good or you still want to go at this. Monica?
I was okay with 8, so I'm okay with this.
Rick?
I'm reluctantly okay with this. I do think that, you know, we still have a little bit of room there for the landfill. I think our rates would have to be very high before we would see people starting to use another landfill, simply because there's not a lot available.
Okay, good comment. Bill?
The percentage of increase I'm happy with, the cuts I am not happy with. I would like to see still the SOS and travel guide included, and I don't think it would make a whole lot of difference right now.
Thank you for your comment. Keep in mind too, when we're passing the budget come next week, that you have to pass the budget or not pass the budget based on all of the projects, not particularly one. So keep in mind that if we go in there and are not wanting to pass the budget because of one item, then we may not pass a budget. Amila?
Yeah, it's a tough one. 6.9. I would like to get to at least 5. I know I started with 3, but it's impossible. It seems, but you know, I would like to get to 5 or around there. So just a little bit of a shift.
Okay, thank you, Colin.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
You're okay. Tom, you said you're good with that. I'm good with it, but I do like Rick's comment, maybe 1% more or something. We wiggle a little bit more there. So if I got a round of everybody's okay with that, I mean, I know, Amila, that you think that, you know, that's one more, maybe a little bit 1% more. I don't know if you have something particularly in mind where to cut, right?
Other than, you know, I don't know the ins and outs of operating, right? So other than tasking administration to go back and see if there's any wiggle room, from operating projects, there's nothing else there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's a tough year. Did a lot of cuts. There isn't really isn't anything else to move on. Do you have anything else? I think, I'm not sure if we're wanting to come back after lunch or if we are good because I got majority of council saying yes to this with the exception of still maybe wiggling a little bit more on the landfills, getting it down so it would be a little bit lower in the 6 point something, I'm assuming.
With an extra percent, it's the tax impact is 6.83%. So not a lot, but it's something.
So 6.83%, Rick, is what it moved it down with an extra percent landfill. Okay, last comments. I will go around and then you tell me if you want to come back after lunch and keep going or if everyone's satisfied and we'll be bringing this to the next council meeting. I will start with Colin. Do you want to come back after lunch or are you ready to pass a budget next week?
What I would like to see, and I think it's already up there, is just a real quick recap of operating, real quick recap of capital, and then also I'd like to see kind of what the cost is to the residential business and I think a quick recap is probably warranted.
So we want to come back briefly?
I think so. And I don't know that everybody needs to come back. I think it's just more of a recap, but yeah.
Okay. So, okay, maybe that's what we'll do then. We'll break for lunch right now and then we will come back for a briefing. And then we will call it a day at 12:45? 12:45 for everyone online. Okay, perfect. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We'll reconvene 12:52. We're going to wrap this up and just have some final conversation. We do have a few comments and questions on this end for those of you that are online. We'll hand it over to Colin to kick it off.
Yeah, we got chatting here and we wanted to just kind of just rehash the, when we look at G&A, the trend over the last, I believe it's 2 years, I think we're up to $1 million,
For what, sorry?
general and administrative. So
Oh, P&G.
so we just kind of want to understand, I know like we built the pool, we've had to staff the pool, we've added some positions, you know, and then we hear we're also that we're lean, right? So we just kind of want to understand that, I guess, as a council, just what does that mean? Like, you know, we have $1 million that we've gone up and we're told we're lean. So we just kind of want to understand
And it's easier for us to.
Wages or P&G?
wages.
Oh, wages.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you said P&G, so I was just trying to wrap my head around. Yeah, so it's a combination of the $1 an hour this year, which is it's about 2.5%, and then the 2% for 2024. And then in I believe it was 2019 when there was a bunch of cuts made. And then knowing that things couldn't be sustained with the levels of service, they slowly got added back. And also the actuals, we budget for being fully staffed, right? We budget for the positions and there's always some vacancies. So then when the actuals come in, usually we're less than that in wages. So it's a combination, just from speaking on top of my head, that's the result. It's the bump to the grid last year, it's merit increases, it's employees making their way through the grid. It's all those things.
Yeah, so
Oh,
what's
and
the
it's
extra staff because? of the pool and
Probably,
ACT?
I think it's like 200,000 to 300,000 just for the extra hours, like the pool operating hours, right? Every hour that we're open, it costs us money. So I'll go look at the pool specifically, but a significant amount of increase from the new pool.
The increase, if I could just add to that, the increase in the size of the pool. So I don't know the exact formula, but however many bathers you may have in the pool demands how many lifeguards that you need to have on deck. And so there's an increase there from your old pool to the new pool. And that's unavoidable unless you start shutting sections down of the pool.
If I can ask.
Oh, just
Sorry.
can I just let Colin
I
finish?
just wanted to close that thought. Like, I don't know that we're really looking for a report as much as just so we're a little more intelligent about
How to speak to it.
how to speak to that, right? So,
And we didn't know exactly what the number was for the pool. And then I thought you said ECDC increased to our childcare. Did you say that out there?
It increased only for the amount that the government is subsidizing us for.
Oh, okay. That's what the increase was for.
So
Okay.
it gets captured in our salaries and wages. And I had spoken to the mayor a little bit about it earlier, is that when you just look at if you look on our financial statements and you look at wages and you compare it to someone like Rocky Mountain House, our wages will seem higher, but we have ECDC that pays ish for itself, it almost pays for itself over the years. There is a huge wage there to run a facility like that. We have affordable housing, that takes a little bit of wages. We have landfill, that takes quite a bit of wages. So add all those services. So like the landfill, and ECDC. It all like, we look to have it pay for itself, but when you group by expense type, it does add to our net wages. But if I reduced it by all the areas that it paid for itself, then the wages would come way down and you could be more comparable to municipalities that don't have all these facilities. Pool went, so the last year we were in Park Valley Pool, we spent 600,000 and we're budgeting 961,000 this year.
Okay. 391, that's a big increase, yeah. Okay, you good, Colin? Okay, Yamila?
Thank you. Just a question about that. When we first presented the new pool and the budget impacts, I can remember it was about 150,000 mark that they were projecting increase at that time
For wages?
for wages.
Correct, and then we open, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, no wages and kind of because of the bigger space as well, right? So just
So in
my
20,
understanding.
sorry, yeah, in 2022 is the last year in the old pool. Our budget was, it's hard, our budget was 686 with the intent that we thought it was going to open in 2022. So the increase in the budget from 2022 to budget 2023 was 100,000. But we came in low because we didn't actually move into the pool in 2022. But then right in the first month of it opening, we extended our opening hours, and the pool, there is a direct cost every single hour more that we're open. It's a service that council chose to provide to the town, and it is costing us every single hour we're open. It costs us in wages. And so we set this budget with the intent of keeping those service levels and opening hours.
So are we happy with the hours that were open in the programs, like the hours that were open right now, Monday to Sunday, 7 days a week? And the additional programs, I think we have additional programs that we've added as well. Are we happy with it? Do we feel like it's too much? Do we feel like it's not enough? Do we feel like we're right where we need to be? I do appreciate Elvira's comments, and I know that we did ask to increase the hours because that's what the community was asking for. So these questions are just all the ways that council can better communicate to the residents when we're asked these types of questions, right? Go ahead, Hans.
Before Hans jumps in there, Jen can develop a number of bullet points on key messaging around the increase for you. So expect that to come.
Yeah, and I think it's helpful when Elvira said, to keep in mind, and you don't really think about it, that we do have things like the landfill, the childcare, we have a new pool, affordable housing. So those are things that, are easy for us to communicate as well. So thank you for that. Go ahead, Hans.
Thank you for that question, and through to the rest of council, of course. So basically, after the first couple of weeks, the addressing of the opening hours, both volume in the week, so later in the evenings or in the weekends, longer hours, did reduce the amount of complaints at the first time when we just copied and pasted the service levels of the old pool. The other increase, of course, that we saw was the usage during those opening hours, because we have multiple use consistently, public swim or lane swimmers consistently throughout the day, which of course had that increase in staffing as well. So as of that time, we have not, high volume of complaints. Sometimes there is those questions of the Saturday mornings, for instance, or the late nights in the weekends. But we have not that volume, of course, from the beginning, and we see it now as a service level that the community accepts, sees as valuable, and basically is what we can provide.
Okay, perfect. So we really wouldn't want to be looking at changing that or touching that at all.
That would be, let's say, on the experience of the customer right now, a decrease of service that we, would not advocate for. It's, of course, a prerogative of council to say what service levels are.
Okay, I guess I was just looking that, yeah, we've extended our hours and we find that nobody's coming swimming from 7 to 9 now, right? There's that window that potentially we could, but that's not what I'm hearing, so.
No, that's correct. And if I can add to that, we've seen, of course, a higher amount of revenues coming in based on the increased level of service, which offsets, of course, a big portion of that. So we've seen right now a higher revenue coming in based on our projections that we had before.
Perfect. Any other questions? Emily, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, thank you. Just wondering, what would be the deficit between 2022 revenues versus expenses and what we are projecting for this year? For the pool, sorry. Yeah, old pool, expenses versus revenues, the deficit and for 2024. Sorry.
Will that take you a minute, Elvira? Okay. She's very quick.
Fantastic, yeah.
So if I'm taking the Drayton Valley's tax impact, so I've taken the county's cost share out. So the bottom line, the tax requirement from 2022 actuals was 559,000. And we're budgeting 997,000 in 2024. So this is partially the debenture. So we debentured on the pool, so we'll have to pay that debenture back, which is $168,000 a year, more than 168, almost $300,000 a year. And then the increase in wages, and then just some utilities, insurance, those kinds of things. So actually our day-to-day maintenance is probably held pretty steady because it's a new pool, whatever. It's like, it's more, but it's new. And a lot of it is under warranty. So we were able to maintain that, but it's the ones like the insurance that we're now insuring a $20 million building, not, you know, it's wages, it's our debenture, it's those kinds of things, utilities that, that are harder to, I mean, some of them are impossible to change, like the debenture. Utilities, we can probably, I mean, we're going to try to look for efficiencies, but yeah, that's where the huge increase lies. So from 2022 actual, which was the last year in last full year in the old pool, to the budget in 2024, it's a $438,000 increase in the impact to our taxpayers.
That includes the debenture interest.
Correct. And principal.
And principal. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. Tom?
Just to, on Colin's note that it's been raised that we're a little bit weak in our manpower and our workforce right now. So we're going to have to add over time. That tells me that next year we're going to see an increase there. So we need to be prepared for that. Am I correct?
I would say yes. You know, my initial assessment, I've only been here maybe a month now. My initial assessment is that we're thin. So like systems and processes and machines and equipment, you need some redundancy. And imagine, if you will, just for a second, that if Elvira, knock on wood, was away or, you know, not able to come this week, how would we run our budget? So if you apply that across the organization and with Public Works in our water treatment facility, and probably in all of our areas, we're thin. We're thin. So yes, you'll see, I think we cut an operator one yesterday. That'll come back next year. You know, administratively, are we okay? I can't answer that yet. But across the departments, I would say we're thin from when I compare to what I see across other municipalities. You want to add?
The only thing I wanted to add is that I sort of touched on it before, but our budget relies on all our positions that are in our stack, in our pay stack, to be filled. And so if you see For example, we have a vacancy in the general manager of planning and development. So we don't have anyone that's actually there right now, but the pay stack projects that we have someone there in that position, right? So sometimes, it takes us a while to hire for whatever reasons, positions are vacant for parts of the year. And so if we filled every single position that's in the pay stack right now, we should still be meeting budget.
We'd be the exact same,
Yeah.
yeah. Next year.
So for 2025, when we get back to budget now, that's a different story, but I just wanted to point out that
That's helpful. Yeah, there wouldn't be addition. So the only additional that we seen was the one operator that would have been additional. So that would have reflected if we're at full capacity in that next year. Yeah. Okay, so we've asked a few questions here. We're going to do a bit of a recap. So maybe what I'll do is I'll get Elvira to tell us exactly where we're at. And then we will wrap it up and go from there. So I believe we left with about a 6.8 something,
6.83.
6.83.
So I'll just go back up and just communicate real quickly. So 663, and then we have some reductions here from budget, 8,000 being from a repair, and then the council reduction. We have the wildfire being reduced by a third. So then I would be looking for a motion next week for council to direct administration how to repay that. So my recommendation would be 3 years. So that's what the 333 is. And then we have the operating projects that we will go to next that are currently still on the list. I took out downtown revitalization from 2023, so it'll just move the funds from 23 to 24. This is the money that's being spent on capital. So we have like servers, command truck and all those. This is increasing our revenues at the landfill by increasing the fees by 6% rather than the 2.5% that we already had in the budget. And then these are our reserve transfers, which gets us down to needing $813,000 extra, which translates to 6.83% on our net revenue. So I want to make it very clear, this is not mill rates, because mill rates also depend on assessment. This is raising our net revenue after requisitions by 6.83%. And then that would cost the average residential $162.18 a year, $13.52 a month. And it would increase the average commercial by $1,044.04, $87 per month.
So just again, 162 a year, which is
$13.52 a month.
$13.52 a month, and commercial would see 1,044
Correct.
per year
And 87 a month.
and 87 a month. Okay.
So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, may I? So, sorry, just a little clarification. I might have been researching in the MGA or something when this went down, but the downtown revitalization, I thought we pulled out.
Yeah, so I'm putting it back into
Next year's.
yeah.
So next year, so 25,000 is not enough money to fund a downtown revitalization. The comments that we received from Mr. Vanna,
We did pull it out. We did pull it out.
it isn't.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
pulled it from 23 and put it into 24. We're just
Right, so, but,
ending the scope of that project and using the 25 to fund something else this year.
okay. Thank you. I
Yeah,
thought
we
was
got rid of
there.
it. Yeah.
Scared me. It was a little-
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that, Elvira?
No, I was just going to now go to the overview of the both project lists.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, sure, go ahead, Colin.
So the third that we're doing for the, to account for the fire, are we looking at all at like the time value of money, or are we just saying it's gonna be a third?
I have not applied that yet. I would, I had talked about, probably should be adding some sort of interest on when we put it back in the reserves. Wally had mentioned that, putting a policy in place, like when we take from reserve and pay it back, that we pay it back with interest or something like that, it would account for it. So I have not applied that, but it would be between probably 5 and 6%.
Just,
Mila?
thank you. Just curious. So this is 50-50 split, right? That's the formula that you came up with.
Correct.
What was your question, sorry?
No, the fire, the calculation was 50-50 split. I think
Yeah.
that's still a conversation that we are still going through, right? So it's not a,
I don't
I don't think it's a done deal.
think we're still having that conversation.
Did we agree on 50-50? I don't.
Well, I mean, I don't know who, I mean,
Talked a bit
haven't-
about it yesterday.
that's what was talked about in joint council. It's nothing like, it's, yeah, I have not had any, we've talked about it, Kent and I, on how we would possibly go through and actually estimate it, and would be incredibly difficult. I don't know how it would work if we were to try to, and I can honestly say that there would be a chance that would be on the losing end of that. I don't know that I just would want to give council all the heads up that if we base it on possible loss of infrastructure, if they're a professional would say, or a consultant would say that's how we should calculate it, then we might be on the losing end of that discussion. If we think about square footage, sure, it would be in our advantage, but that's not, yeah, if we got to exact costs, that's almost impossible, because when we traveled from county into town, back to the county, and where we spent those costs, we can't really, we could just do very, very broad estimates. So it'd be very difficult. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have that conversation. And certainly personally for myself, being in this role and back in my finance capacity, I was going to look into it further. I just, right now, 50-50 is simply a decision based on unified command, how we split costs in terms of fire, and kind of the fact that there was a larger amount of county land impacted, but a lot of money was spent to make sure the fire didn't enter into the town.
Resources. Tom, do you want to come and comment on that, please?
Sure, just to allude to what Elvira just said, there was a significant amount of resources that were used to protect the town. So if you talk about fire and flood, which was over $2 million for that huge sprinkler system. If you talk about all the air support that was used to protect the town, if you talk about all of the mutual aid vehicles like fire trucks that came in specifically to protect the town, it was a huge, significant amount. So I just caution council to be aware of that.
Yeah, I think that the county is.
Yeah, and just one more quick comment too is that they have been handling on the finance side. They've been handling every single thing because we did not have the capacity to do it. And when everything went to hell in a handbasket, I was in the CAO capacity. They had a CAO and a CFO, so their CFO automatically took that responsibility. And because they started it ahead of us, they've been extremely gracious to handle that side of things. And I personally, that changed my capacity incredibly over the last 6 months. So that's a factor as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they've done great through all of this for sure. Okay, so what we're going to do is just recap projects quickly. I'm going to go around from a nod of heads and a wave from those online. Just going to review what the projects are that we have listed, both operating and capital. Will you bring that up, Elvira? I just have a little question. When you bring up and you show us, I can't remember if you show us the last 5 years or you show us the 10 years. When you show us that, and then you showed us what would we do if we did I think it was a 2.5 increase. This is where we'd be on the little graph, right? And that's with including everything in, right? Like all of our projects in, right? Like all the capital projects that we're projecting and everything
Yeah.
like that. Okay, and I guess the reason I'm asking is when we're done this, I want to get to how do we get ourselves in better shape for next year? Right? So that'll be a question for after.
Absolutely. Okay. So this is the operating projects. So we're ending right now at 329,000. We cut the organizational wide training in half. We have the back truck operator. We reduced the flowers to 30. And everything else. Oh, we had the youth advisory. We didn't take completely out. So we added 1,600. Oh, I don't know what happened there. I'm over here busy talking still. There we go. So we had, 1.6. And also just a note that the reconciliation and cultural diversity training, we kept that in as a separate line, but then we reduced the organizational wide training. Just so that we could still do the cultural and diversity, but just take it from the training budget. Anyone have any comments on this?
Nope.
We'll bring up the capital project list.
Bill, do you have a question?
I thought the organizational training was 54,000.
We cut it in half.
We cut it in half over 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just hiding the amounts that got eliminated yesterday. Sorry, I had not done this yet. Okay. So at the top, we have the two Sanders. So the one for the tandem and the one for the 1 ton for $75,000. Then we have the servers, 2 servers to complete our upgrades. We have the fire storage CCAN, command truck, and then our 3 big projects. So we have the 50th Ave East improvements, so the increase in the budget there by 575. And then we have the wastewater treatment augmentation. So we need to move into the next phase of that project, which requires some more funding. And once we're through the design phase and into the construction, we're expecting 75% grant funding for the entire project. And then the water distribution line connection. So this project, we're hoping to get grants for. If we don't get grants, then we will have to debenture the remaining of it. So if we don't get grants, then we'd have to do a $2.3 million debenture on this project if we want to see it completed in 2024. So the operating impact, as you can see here in this line, is it highlighting? Oh, I'm losing it again. Not sure what's going on. List. Am I back, Nathan? Stop sharing. Share. So are we having, now it's my turn to have technical difficulties. I'll rejoin. But the total projects, which are our servers, CCAN, command truck, and the wastewater treatment augmentation, the design phase, total up to 260, pretty much 261,000. So it's 260,943. I'm going to leave the meeting and rejoin so I can share content.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we had a recap there, 6.83% net revenues to keep in mind, 162 a year per household, and that equates to 1,044 approximately per year for commercial. We took the fire payback and divided that over the 3 years. And then Elvira just went over the operational and capital projects. that will be included with that, as well as the debentures and the projects going forward in 2024. So with that, I will go around if anyone has any questions, comment, or final comment, I guess. Bill, you have your hand up. Is this a new comment or question?
Down.
Okay. It's down. Okay, so this is where we're at. How is everyone feeling? At the recap? We're going to be walking away today and coming back into a special council meeting next week to pass the budget. So if you have any other final, sorry, Bill?
6.83 is the rate now.
6.83. And that, keep in mind, is net revenue. So that is not based on the mill rate. That is about $162 a year, which equals $13.52 per household a month, and $1,044 for commercial, $87 a month. 1/3 of that over 3 years for the fire payback. And then the operational and capital projects that Elvira had mentioned, as well as the projects going forward for 2024 to debenture. I believe that the one was contingent on grant funding as well to proceed forward. Did you get all that, Bill?
Yeah, I have that. Thank you. I just
Okay.
want to say that we are providing, I think, our community with great customer service. And I think we should take pride in that. And unfortunately, there are fixed costs that are beyond our control. And we were quite generous in the past, and I guess this is sort of a catch-up time. And it's something that we have to swallow and eat and move forward. But by moving forward too, I think we as a council should look very seriously at generating different and new revenue streams for the next 2 years, whether it's in economic development, land sales, but I think we have to get more focused on that. And that's all I got to say for now.
Thank you for that, Bill. Anybody else? Closing comments or questions? Tom?
No, I'm ready for next week. I think we've done some good work. Appreciate the staff and administration bringing that forward. So I'm ready.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well then that is it. We've come to a decision. It's not been an easy decision. Took us a few days to get here, but once again, thank you very much to administration. This takes a lot of preparation and work to balance a budget, to bring your projects forward, to help us understand in the community, understand the needs and how a town operates and everything that goes along with it. It is hard. I did not think that we'd be at the number that we were at, but I'm not sure I really even could tell you what I thought, because I knew that there were so many things that were out of our control, like the RCMP, like insurance, like utilities, like the fire, like there's things that we just didn't think that we'd have to consider. So with those in mind, and then to be also considering our capital projects when we look at 10 years, we have to be planning for those as well, that we're not in a situation where we don't have the funds to support that, or we have an emergency or a break or something. So as tough as it is, and as difficult of a number that might be for some residents, that just to add on to rising costs, it's very unfortunate that it is what it is. And I think that we've done our best and tried hard to get those numbers down. We've done a lot of cuts for sure. We went from over 3 million to 800. And so, yeah, that's significant cuts. So yeah, thanks to council for hard work over the last couple of days, and to administration. And I guess my only final question would be is next year. So when we have a whole year to plan and situate ourselves better for next year. So I would agree with Bill on, we're going to be doing a workshop on economic development to think of ways that without spending money, how do we increase our revenues, right? We are land heavy, so maybe it's time to start looking at getting rid of some land, in our bank there, as well as encouraging some growth in our community. We have a housing shortage, so maybe we're trying to stimulate the economy and get developers and builders building again. Little things like that. We've got businesses, a lot of businesses that have opened in this last year, and it's really fantastic to see. They're growing strong, they're doing amazing, and so we need to be supporting those businesses that have been around as well as new businesses that are coming. So I think that rather than just leave the budget at, you know, it is what it is and we'll do this next year, I think maybe to, I guess, ways for council to be strategizing and any ideas that anyone from admin might have that we can be better prepared for next year so that, you know, maybe we are closer to the 2.5 like your projections are seeing, right? There's been conversations about some of the big capital projects, how we could maybe steer away. So maybe we start to move towards those conversations and get ourselves in a better position next year. So we're not having to do the cuts that we're having to do and the increases that have happened. So great job, everyone. And that'll be it for our meeting. Last piece is communication that'll go out for sure. So we will wait for our comms team to put that together and then we'll talk about that. One last question though we did talk about. So is this an interim budget we are passing or just a portion of it? We have to pass the capital, but we actually don't pass the.
So I think with the work that we were able to do and get done in the last couple of weeks, my concern had been if Wally wasn't able to join us in time, that we just do an interim. But I think that I don't know that much will change in terms of our costs. And so I think this can be the final budget with the knowledge that in May we have to pass the mill rate. We can't set our mill rates until we have our assessments. And so if any adjustments needed to happen, that of course, that we could do them at that time. So we will be looking to pass the final budget.
So hypothetically, we've got the next council meeting, a whole list of grants that are coming forward. Let's say all of a sudden we're successful and we get all these grants and all of a sudden we've got some extra money. Can we come and go, whoa, 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 let's revisit this and we're going to throw some back on because all of a sudden we got this money?
So,
Flowers everywhere.
thank you. Great question. So next week's report around grants, I wouldn't expect a whole bunch of news about, oh, we've landed a whole bunch of new grants. The report is going to say, you know, what grants we have received in fiscal year 2023, what grants that we've applied for and haven't heard back yet, so are in progress, and what ones we're going to try to apply for before the deadline. So we won't have any of that news, I suspect. I mean, there might be something that comes up, but I suspect it'd be minor if it does. So if in the new year, all of a sudden we do receive grants, I think it will offset some of the costs that we've had. Council has selected a number of projects that are grant
Contingent.
Thank you, grant contingent. And so I, you know, you can consider an interim budget, but as Elvira said, you know, we don't anticipate a whole lot of changes in the assessment. And that can cause you to, if there was going to be a big fluctuation up or down, then I would suggest an interim budget. But I think we're pretty solid here. But if we do get a huge grant and you on something and we choose to add a new project, council can always do that through motion of council.
Okay, perfect. Okay, then I think that is it. I will adjourn the meeting at 1:30 p.m. Thanks again, everyone, and take the rest of the day off.